We're sleep deprived. All right, we're back, after signing the paperwork that we needed for the meeting, and now we're going to be talking about budgets. And first up is Parks and Recreation, Mr. Soupy.
If I can interject very quickly.
Make sure your microphone's on.
Because there's not one-for-one microphones out here for everyone, the gain on these is turned up really high. They're supposed to pick up ambient, so don't feel like you have to speak into these and you don't have to speak loud. What I'm doing right now is probably the standard that everybody could do. So
Okay.
These are turned up quite a bit. Now on the wireless, those are probably turned off right now, so go ahead and just make sure they're on. All right, Randy, take it away.
All right. Everybody here okay? All right, so my first park budget item, the future task from 2025 to 2028. It's just future projects. Some are in the budget to look for. Others are ideas that are coming up. So it's your cover sheet. It says new and enlarged garage door for the barn. That could go towards our lower barn or our...
Hold on. That's what's in our book.
Yeah.
We were not given that previously. Okay, you got it?
Yeah, that was in the front of the parks page there.
Okay, very good. Sorry, go ahead.
You're good. So you just follow along, and it might not even be up there, is it, Skylar? You don't have that on there, do you?
The what? Yeah, I'm pulling
The cover sheet.
I don't have.
I gave it to Lori this morning, so.
Okay.
So another issue, I have some pricing. Most of this are estimates for 2025. A couple things are accurate. Possible north restroom upgrades where we have the concerts. Speaking of like sinks, dividers, et cetera there, I'd rather look into upgrading stall dividers, restrooms, freshening everything up there. That could be a future project as well. We are looking to add for pickleball amenities, pretty much shades, netting, dividers, and I have money set aside from this year that we're going to transfer over. I'll explain that in the budget further on.
Okay.
And then also the dog park additions are carried over. Like I mentioned in each meeting, I'm going to purchase amenities through this year and then install for next year. So most of that will be purchased before the end of the year here, though. So, and then other site improvements. We've been talking. I've been working with road crew as well. They help me out a lot with these things. We're looking at some landscaping to separate an area for the lodge, like put up some trees that divides the area to make it look more of like a stage area and separate for if cars need to park there as well. Adds a little more safety. We are looking to add lighting and cameras down the walkway now that we're adding a dog park. All these are estimate numbers. I'm still waiting on callbacks for all them, so those could be a high number. Let's see, another one would be as we added the new playground up by Shelter 1, I'm looking to add new parking in a grass area, convert some more grass to additional parking spots. It's been brought up, maybe a new concession in by the new stage area that we have, so we'll have to keep permanently, have something there all the time instead of moving things in and out. We could always look into a container, make it to something, or something, if we're allowed to do something permanent, we'll look into that as well. So, and then also park resurfacing, and we are painting right now as needed, so we're trying to keep up on that as well. So as soon as park resurface stuff comes up, we'll look into that in the future. And down the road, we're not looking at anything TIF related this year or possibly next year to keep with the records, and we'll just get like van replacement, car replacements, and also mower replacements down the road. So that's future stuff.
Do you have these prioritized by the years you'd like to do them, or, so that they kind of get in the pipeline?
I would bring those up for sure, what comes up and what's needed in the line. I don't have them per se in line right now. Certain things could come up quicker than others. Like I said, there are pickleball amenities that are come up now. They'll be towards the beginning of next year. I'll order all the parts. The dog park budget stuff will be handled. But like upgrades could possibly be next year. New barn doors, garage doors I have in the budget as well to let our tractor go in. Right now they're so low that you can't access the tractor.
So you're talking 2025 for that?
Yes.
And then obviously the dog park amenities are all 2025?
2025, yeah.
Are these numbers in addition to what you had budgeted for this year that you're going to be using?
So I will explain in
Okay, when we
coming
get to
up.
that part.
Some of them are budgeted and some will be carried over.
Okay.
So if it's,
Yes, yeah,
if it's carried over, there is a line item for it.
in the
So
budget.
When we hit December 31st, any any unencumbered, unspent money from this year, it's effectively gone out of their budgets. There's no such thing as undocumented carryover. If it's showing as a carryover line in their budgets here, it's because it was unspent last year and they want to use it next year. So it is an addition to their regular budget, and it's going to effectively add to the total appropriations. But your spending authorities are still in effect, but any POs that were created for last year, or effectively the year we're in, those are gone December 31st.
Okay, so in what I'm seeing, and this is why I want you to get my brain straight, is, so the garage doors you would like in 2025, or need in 2025?
Yes.
The pickleball amenities, 2020?
Yeah, those are happening from the
Yeah.
extended.
Dog park
month.
additions?
Yes.
And the, and the lighting and cameras?
Yeah,
Those are the ones
lighting
I'm
and
seeing
cameras.
in 2025?
Yes.
What else? I mean, we'll get to it,
Yeah.
but just since we're on this page.
Yeah, everything else is kind of, per se, a wish list that could happen.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is what we're looking at for 2025
Yes.
on your list?
So
Okay.
the cameras and the lighting at the dog park are 2025?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when we plan to finish and put everything in and install everything. And hopefully, there are some hoops to jump to get the access in that spot, so that's what we're still working on.
Okay.
I'm working with 2 companies right now to get everything set.
Yeah, I just
So,
wanted to know in my mind.
Yeah.
that-
I would say that the restroom closest to the stage
Yeah.
is a priority.
Yeah, that's what I had on there as well. So if, something comes up with that with funding, we'll get that for park, priority, yeah.
2025.
And a note to the side on that restroom is to make sure that we increase checking that restroom during the nights that we have concerts,
Oh, yeah,
please.
for sure. The guys, believe it or not, we're in there, we're cleaning daily. Unfortunately, it comes out that even after an hour or two, it looks as it does, and it's a shame that
know.
it happens. And yeah, it's kind of a process that we're trying to get taken care of. Yeah.
The
I mean,
night
because
out.
as far as the facilities around the concerts, the only thing we really ever hear complaints about is the restroom condition.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so,
And the volume of that at the time frame for the size of the
Yeah.
restroom. Yeah, we've added a really big event for that area that never was there. So
but a priority
yeah.
would definitely be the safety with the lighting around the new
Yeah,
dog park.
yeah, that's another.
Okay.
Yeah.
Randy, where do I see the money for the concerts and such in the park?
It is under, let's see,
Summer programs.
yeah, other expenses, summer programs, it would be 2171, 610, 599,
$70,000.
0302, yeah.
And does that cover here, any of that here?
No, it does not.
And that,
We're budgeting for 7 to 8 concerts within the park. There is a sales tax issue that we may want to talk about. We may want to talk about limiting the number of concerts, 6 in the park, and supplementing with additional concerts here, because we already deal with sales tax for activities out on the lawn. We're making too much money out there that it has to be justified, it has to be accounted for. In the parks, the auditor has stated that we're allowed to do 6 events before we have to start accounting for sales tax.
6 events over in the park.
In the park, yeah. 6 special events.
So then if you had 6, but you were still budgeting for 8, you could move
Yes.
2 of the ones here?
Yeah, and we would have to pick and choose on size and
So some of
venue.
those acts, I mean, not the menus, of course, things like that, but there are some that could be here.
Yeah, there's some smaller.
As, again, we try to
Yeah.
build up the fun and excitement here. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
6 big concerts and a lot of small to moderate sized here.
Okay.
Okay.
And
I prefer not to get into this, arguing with the state of Ohio over sales tax. So I'd like to make sure that we stick to the 6 at the park.
absolutely, makes sense.
Okay.
And then, thanks for the lighting
Yeah.
and the cameras around that dog park, which
Yeah, for sure, if something's added new, we're going to put in what we can do.
To me, I would almost
Yeah.
want those up and running before we even open
Yeah, and
them.
I'm in the process of getting with those guys and everything working right now. I have
Yeah.
two companies looking at it, like putting bids for me, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Randy,
Yeah,
quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I misunderstood or didn't hear it correct, but was there any talk about expanding the bathrooms up there, or?
I initially thought of looking into that. I don't know the cost factor in that, though. I mean, if it's possible, then that'd be a great idea. Also, my other question was, is it possible to move it so people aren't directed across the street, going to that as well? So if there's availability to build a new one that we would want there.
I like having it, I don't know where you would move it.
Yeah, I'm not-
Hopefully
yeah.
not in our green space.
Yeah.
I prefer to keep that off of there, but.
Yeah, and we're kind of pinched between roadway and roadway all the way through, too, so, yeah.
But I think it's at least worth looking into.
Yeah.
Expanding that restroom, considering, the portal, there's a line for those portal
Yeah.
lights.
Oh, yeah,
up there
true.
during the concerts. So.
Yeah.
Expanded bathroom would help. I would also like to maybe dig in a little further, the building, some type of permanent structure where we could, work out, sell our burgers, our hot dogs, our grill, and sell.
Yeah,
our
that's something I would,
concessions.
our whole crew would really look into that.
I'm sure it's a
Yeah.
lot of time.
It's a lot of time and running up and
setup
back and forth, yes, yeah.
Every year,
Yeah.
so.
And something permanent would be ideal if it's possible. I would look into that, yeah.
Is there any consideration in tearing down the concession stand?
I haven't seen anything just yet. I could look into it. It's being used just for storage right now. So, I mean, and it's not an ideal spot as we're standing now to use that as a concession as well. You're in the main part of traffic. It's kind of pinched right there anyway. So, yeah, we could definitely look into doing something there. And I don't know what would go, tearing it down, what would be back. Right now, like I said, it's used for the vending machines, storing all the stock of pop and Gatorades and everything in there. So
I don't know how much it was used, but to me, looking at the concession
Yeah.
stand, it's kind of an eyesore.
yeah,
I think we could make that area look a lot
Yeah,
nicer.
I mean,
if
I
that
could definitely look
concession stand
into-
wasn't there,
If it wasn't there.
if it wasn't there.
yeah.
Something to
Yeah.
consider.
So with going down to 6 only concerts, because right here we have 7 to 8 at 70,000, how much can we eliminate?
Well, we're keeping the 7 to 8. We're just saying 6 at the
Yeah.
park, possibly
We'll
2 here.
supplement here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll
Misunderstood
utilize
that.
some of it.
Thank you.
Randy, a while back, the Library Foundation came to us and talked about a driveway
Yes.
coming in from the library and accommodating the not the senior center, but the lodge.
Yeah, for an access through.
Do you know where that is?
I have no idea from where they stood. When we had the meeting, and I believe somebody came and spoke in one of the meetings, I believe at Old Admin is where we were at, they had mentioned a year or two at least away, or 3.
Well, I know on 26, we're scheduled on their calendar for either it's a makeover or a new library.
Yeah, and I think at that time, when I was listening, I think that she was saying we could work with them, and I'll definitely work with them on getting a road through there. Because I can't tell you how many people drive through past the
Yeah.
skate park and hit a dead end. And yeah, they're just, I didn't see the sign, so yeah.
Well, I think it would open up a lot of our traffic flow, even from concerts
Yeah.
exiting the
And it doesn't
park.
take up, 2 or 3 parking spots, I imagine. It wouldn't lose a whole lot, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talk about telephone expense, does that include your Wi-Fi?
Let's see, I believe it does, yes.
Well,
It's all,
internet, Alta Fiber.
yeah.
Ultra Fiber? Okay. And
So a lot of
did
the
everyone
information.
use the same amount to average their gasoline per gallon usage cost? I mean, did
So-
we say use $2.99 or $3.25? What did we use for per gallon cost on fuels?
So we're not, the formula isn't based on a per gallon cost. It's just an aggregate of past years.
Yeah.
Fuel expense. So we can track individual usage, and we do look at that, but for budgeting purposes, we're looking at just trending costs, because our mileage is effectively, within a standard deviation every year.
Plus our additional fuel use is different than like road crews, because we have mowers, we have everything else too. So we have a separate
Separate
item than that
charge
as
for
well.
them.
So we're using, we can judge it by many, but in the past years, we do get pretty close. When it went up really high, it was hard to even try to track
That
what
was
was
just a
needed.
question for everybody, how did we
Yeah.
do fuel costs? And you're just saying we did it as a total average, not as a gallon average.
Yeah,
No.
every department is looking at their own gasoline expenses, and we're just tracking it that way.
Okay. And then Randy, I have one last question, and
Yeah.
that is about Clearview Lake maintenance
Yeah,
and, the counting of the fish and the
okay.
so on. Where does expense for that come in? Because I noticed too that some of our erosion process is kind of slipping away.
So
Does that
the-
need to be revamped?
Well, so Clearview, I can actually get a hold of ODNR. They contacted us, I believe, a year back or so, or two.
Yep.
And they will maintain parts of it if we change to their process, and then I can work with them on the process of cleaning up and like, a bigger issue of the erosion and everything are the geese and the duck over there. As soon as you throw grass seed, it's like a smorgasbord, and they're just eating it up. So it is hard to keep that from really getting a good base, unless we can fight it, get them away and keep getting them away, so.
Well, would sod work?
Sod does, we had put it in before too, and it's here or there. It could go and it doesn't. Some spots do, others don't.
But the
So,
strength of the barrier or
Yeah.
whatever, the dam, whatever,
yeah,
the wall.
everything is,
it's
yeah,
okay.
it's
even though
okay.
it
Everything's fine there. It has the grid work that they put in. You'll see a little erosion underneath, but that grid work's probably, when I was there when they were doing it, it's probably 6 or 8 foot wide. So it does span the whole amount of that. And we do take a look at it when it comes around. If we need to adjust things, we can easily pick stuff up and move around as well.
And then farmers market and summer camp. Those were my last 2 items on my list.
We always do the farmer's market. We'll do it every week. And the summer camps
And
as a
that'll
right,
start at the same time
same times usually, yeah. And we do it every Saturday.
every Saturday.
Yeah. And there was word we could try to move it down, same spot, but downhill towards the lake, and we could get a few more vendors. We're working on that right now, too.
Okay.
So right now, we're averaging about 31, 32 vendors. We could probably increase that to around 40 to 41 if we moved it, and it won't be at its level, but I think we could put out a little survey and check on it, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
With more fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. Hopefully
Yeah.
unless
I mean,
we
that's-
change it from
yeah.
farmer's market
It takes a
to
while. Yeah, it takes a while.
market, maybe.
Yeah.
Just a
Randy,
market.
Market.
on the van that you're replacing, how old is that van? Is that the one that Dan uses?
The one that, yeah, we use it for the part of the park department and shared services, what he does for the other parts. Yeah, it's been around, I don't know, Ron might even know.
Facilities management.
04, yeah.
Oh, 04, I was going to say a long.
It's showing a little rough. I know Mike
It is.
has told us it's running a little rough, so. Yeah, and we wouldn't go as big of an item. We would get a smaller purchase. I had talked to Jeff too about like a smaller Astro van like they have that still carries all the materials that is needed. It doesn't need a giant van like that though either, so.
We
But
retire one next
all those
year.
other boards of trustees that kept saying, wait another year, wait another
I-
year.
And on my list there, I'm waiting a few more years for it, so we'll get it through.
20 years later, I think it's time to replace that van, so thanks for the explanation on that.
I
Yeah,
was just
so,
looking at it on the way in going, that is a little rough. I have personnel questions. I see a big drop for Michael Lips from 2004. Do we have people retiring? Do we have people that are going part-time that aren't full-time? I'm just seeing a big drop in some of these
Thought it was
employees.
So those are
I thought
shared
it was
services.
salary.
So we're sharing them differently?
yeah, they do different amounts of time working on our equipment, so
Okay.
that's how much percentage we pay per crew.
I thought
It
that's what
changes
might
every
be,
year.
But I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure if you move
Yeah.
around.
We do is we take October of last year through September of this year, and we change the average. That's mainly just for Mike and Joe, since it's
Yeah.
based on what vehicles they use.
That's what I was saying. I didn't know if we were having a personnel issue.
So yes,
Or,
the
you know,
cost actually went up.
leaving-
It's just
leaving.
went to different people.
I got you.
So actually then, Melanie, some people that are on multiple departments and sharing income,
Yes.
could you possibly give us a cheat sheet of, those people and what their total salary ends up to be?
I'll have that for you tomorrow. We'll talk about it then.
Asking.
But,
I was going to say, you can also see it on here because it shows you
What
either
percent?
the per pay or the per hour, and then the percentage, because that's their full rate in under rate for him.
We'll do a breakdown
Yeah,
so
we
you
can show that.
you can see what the percentage is per.
Which departments?
Per department.
Okay.
For example, I think Dan Ryan this year, we are, because of the work he's doing at DTS, we're going out of department, but, you know, we're taking percentage away from fire department and adding a little more to admin. So there's some slight percentage shifts, but we're not completely revamping shared services.
All right, just so that I have a bottom line number for people who have shared compensation.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you guys see the little highlighted red marks are the only differences through the budget part. Everything with inflation, the only reason they're going up is a couple thousand or something a year that we're adding for that. I could say like for repairs and maintenance, it is up a little bit because of that. Repairs and maintenance vehicles, because we're not getting new every year now. We're holding on to the mowers and everything and the trucks longer. We're going to add a little more for maintenance. The air reads, let's see, I got other dues and fees for civic rec. I did add a few more for that for our policy that we're running. And our copier system, now that we moved our copiers over, we are sharing more with zoning and admin and things, so we're adding a few more for those too. And then improvement of sites, I had down in here, I do have the cameras for the dog parks upgrade, pathway lighting upgrades. Like I said, trees and landscaping and carryover for the pickleball structures. So all that is in that backside of the budget on improvement of sites.
Randy, have you considered at all lighting on the pickleball?
It was in the initial considerations, but initially I would say that we probably don't want people there in the evenings because it does close down. The only thing we do right now is kind of like softball. I don't know if that's what's wanted or what's not. I mean, if it's what's wanted to keep people in the park later after hours, I'm more than welcome to, but I don't know if that's good or bad, you know.
Well, I think if it's something to where they're doing it and you've seen the overwhelming success of the
Yeah.
pickleball courts, that's something to where if they were up there, that's something I'd
Yeah.
love to see them doing, you know.
Definitely before that. I just don't
Yeah.
want to, you know, bring on more issues, less issues, whatever needs to happen. And I know it was in the initial process of the build that it was talked about lighting, and especially around nowadays, like now time frame when it's a little warmer still and it's getting darker quicker, it would be
Right.
nice to have, yes. But then in the evening, I believe, I've been up a few times, I don't know if you've been playing either, like, I've seen everybody kind of clears out before it's even kind of getting dark in the summertime, so.
Well, yeah, but if there's
Yeah.
lighting, and trust me,
Yeah.
a fellow pickleball fan here, if you've
Yeah,
got
no,
lighting,
it's
we'll play
definite.
till midnight if you keep them on, you know, and they
Yeah.
will. And they want to get leagues, they want that, they want more courts. I mean, and I'm glad you got money put aside
Yeah.
for the netting and
Yeah.
for, you know, distancing in between courts, which is great. The rules are posted, which
Yep.
is wonderful, but I think definitely the lighting would be something to consider.
I could definitely look into it for sure. I know
Yeah.
it was originally talked about, and I believe it was on the fence either way, you know, do we want them in late at night, still going? The park is actually closing, you know, at dusk or dawn to dusk. So I don't know if you want to handle that, you know, if you want to go just pushing that limits all the time, you know.
I have
So,
another question.
yeah.
If they're open, is there a lot of click, click, click sounds that we're going to have complaints from our residents? who
Well, you're going to
live
push them
at
out by
night?
9:30 anyway.
Yeah.
This isn't like a late thing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very late. And I would say the same token, you would do.
Just want to be considerate to people who.
You would do the
live
concerts. I
nearby.
know it's not every night, so you're dealing with concerts that way, and we do have complaints about that, about noise, but, you know, and you also have the lighting, problems with light. I mean, there's always issues like that too, so, but yeah, that's a definite option to look into also.
Yeah.
You know, if it's one to look.
How close are those courts to residential backyards?
You're on the tail, you're on the tail end there.
It's a woods line that separates too, so I don't know how much would go through
There's
there.
some buffer, but.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I mean, I knew there was kind of a wooded buffer, I just didn't know.
Yeah, I'd say there's maybe 4 to 5
on the
houses
outside?
through
Three
there.
houses that face Foley that back into that
Okay.
general area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we did do lights, and like you said, I mean, my concern is, how do we tell everybody, particularly children
Yeah.
or whatever. You can't go into the park, but the adults are allowed to go over
True.
and play pickleball.
And that's a
So-
catch-22, because we
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
We have like leagues that are in there, and it's a possible way to get
Yeah.
around, and we're looking into doing the leagues as well, so.
But if
I
we
mean,
put a
you do that-
timer on them to stop.
Oh, to go out, yeah.
To go out.
And that's how it used to be with the tennis courts. There was a timer on those lights, you know.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Just Mount St. Joe would do the same thing with their tennis courts. You knew when it was.
was
And
when
these
it's
guys,
done.
they'll know it like the back of their hands. Lights go
Yeah.
out at 9 o'clock or 9:30, which is great. And it runs, right now what you're having are the people up on the skateboard and everything else.
Yeah.
So, I almost like the idea of having 40,
Yeah.
50 adults up there,
Yeah.
If we did a lighting system, do you think there would be enough interest that we would have an organized
No
league
doubt
or
in my
club?
mind. You have those open in the summer months, nighttime. The one at Aces, which is going on now, which is out in Oakley, out that way, it's a whole little city over there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a snack bar, they got
Yeah.
everything.
They
We're
have
not
a-
on that level, of course.
Yeah, they have a very serious setup.
But the
yeah.
reason they have that, because they have indoor and they also have lit courts
Yeah.
outside, so,
Okay.
Yeah, and if they're done outside, they can easily
Yeah.
move inside. That's a benefit of that part.
And I know some have contacted us wanting to do leagues and.
Yeah, yeah.
And really add to it.
Yeah, we're
And-
working on that as well,
Yeah.
so.
I think
Alright,
that's
let's-
awesome.
Yeah, we'll get a price
Yeah,
together.
no problem.
Still about summer camp, Randy, what are we doing?
So summer camps, we do not have our events person, so we haven't, as our staffing is now, we've already took on everything that we're doing, and that was the initial cut that we did. And the reason was, even when we had our event staff here, we were minimal in I think our last year, I don't have all the stats right now, but I think she might have had 7 or 8 different summer programs, like little classes, and there might have been 6 or 7 per grouping. So I know there's still people calling and there's people asking, but it was minimal amounts that we had to get kids into there, and some of them didn't even go through. So I know we get occasional calls about it. But as of right now, that's one thing that we're trying to work with our crew, with our group now. Everything we've taken on so far,
In your
so.
salary plan, I didn't see an open place for an event person.
No, we took that out. We have had everything coming in here, so it kind of is adjusting. I did exchange that with a possible full-time employee down the road, just in case. That was recommended.
I mean, even if we had, kid days, and maybe it wouldn't be a full week, but maybe, twice a month or something, we had a special, like everyone enjoyed the zoo visit
Yeah.
in the park. And there's lots of other opportunities to just have special kid days in the park without doing a full-blown, full week
Safety
camp.
bike day, things like, those are the things I remember my children going to. But Skylar, am I correct? Have I heard, and again, I hear things, they're wanting to do some kids' camps up here in the summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Is that in lieu of or in addition to,
So the athletic club is putting together a proposal for the trustees' review, but it is currently their intent to run a summer program through the athletic club and event center, and that could certainly be in cooperation
Yeah.
in partnership with the parks.
That would be
So-
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was, I believe, I don't know if it was intended that way, but even when it was being built, we were kind of considering that, aspect of it, so,
Yep.
Okay.
yeah.
So, yeah, we certainly have an opportunity this summer, and it's already in the, kind of the planning stages. They just have to flesh out the program, enough for you guys to review.
Yep.
Okay, so Randy, bottom line then, you're looking at about a 5% increase in your total budget for the year?
Yes, that's what it looks like.
And then I'd like to know how that places you against your current levy money.
The levy money, I didn't estimate it. I just kind of go by what was offered when I went through everything, so I didn't look into total. I'd have to look that up myself right now, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Any more questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you for your solid work on this.
Thanks,
And-
Randy.
Just a quick comment, typically what I do during this process is I do look at where we are year-to-date, and I know through, just hot off the press, October numbers, parks we budgeted $1,190,000. Through October, we're at $735,000 actual expenditure, so your year-to-date expenditure, so, good job on managing 2024, so.
Yep.
And like, we have budgeted items last year that more than likely, like you said, the events coordinator was never filled. You know, spots are there or not. We budgeted for it just in case it happens, and then it doesn't fill, so, yeah.
So, I mean, typically what you'll see is, you know, right now, we're like 62% through what he budgeted. So obviously, yes, we
Yeah.
do build in some cushion
Yeah.
through this process, which is a good thing.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys did a great job with
Yep.
managing your funds and, you know, building that cushion where needed, so. That's all I have.
All right. Okay, we're moving on now to Public Works. Let the shell game begin.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah, we got away from that.
I know you did. I'm just teasing. No,
Yikes.
that was my first exposure to it when I got on the
Yes.
board. It's like, we got all these pockets, but.
It was
Yep.
confusing, but
Yeah.
not so much anymore.
You've minimized it. Thank you so much.
Pretty cut and dry. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go over our highlights, but that's what I'm going to go through.
Okay.
Page by page, hit by that. I did get a chance to go through the budget with Skylar, and pretty happy with the changes he made to the budget, like layout, as far as adding a good amount of information. I like it.
Okay?
Thank you. Start with motor vehicle license tax. And this is a very uneventful, I know we have 4 funds altogether,
Yeah.
but this one really just pays our insurance, and it hasn't been paid yet, as you can see, the year to date. It's typical. It's really late in the season. It did go up a little bit, but that's just new fleet exchange is what we were anticipating, but we really don't know the exact number yet. Any questions on that? You can see back in '23 where we put 70,000 toward a road project, but I'll get to that a little bit later.
All right.
All right, gasoline. Let's see, you can see some of our highlights there, but I'll go through on this main page. Yeah, it's page 1. Let's see, contracted services went up quite a bit, and that's just for a project to repair some curbs we got a complaint on out west. It would be Timber Hill, the east side, and then Arbor Run, just some spotty curb repair. And it'll help long term because we do want to get to paving those roads at some point. So it'll take away some money from curb work. So that's the increase there. I think Mr. Luby asked about that one.
So the Hickories and Arbor?
Nope.
No?
Just Timber Hill
Oh,
East
Timber Hill, I'm sorry.
and Arbor Run, and that's just some spotty curb replacements, all
Okay.
we're doing there. Like I said, the one came in on a complaint.
Yep.
Let's see, at the bottom there was quite a bit budgeted in '24, and that was just to finish up our dump trucks we paid for out of our account. Early '24, at the
Where's
end of
that
that.
reflected?
That'd be the
We
end
have
of
so
the
many
first
pages.
page.
The first page?
Yep. I didn't
Under
switch.
gasoline tax?
Yep. Yeah,
So motor
still in
vehicle, that
gasoline.
25,000, okay. That's to finish off the dump truck? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
that's what that did.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that might be a question.
All
All
right.
right, page 2, gasoline.
Yeah.
Not much on here either. The only really highlight we have there is at the bottom under motor vehicles. Right now, we do a lot of in-house repairs as far as asphalt, crack sealing, some concrete work. But we're looking into some attachments for our Bobcats, so we're not doing quite so much handwork. It's a pretty primitive way that we do it. I mean, it's nice, it works out good, but, you know, we could increase production and lessen the back aches at night, stuff like that.
Got it.
And we have struggled with some employees, which I'll talk about that later, just replacing and people leaving. I think all the departments struggle with that a little bit, most of them.
Okay. I have 2 questions in this fund.
Sure.
Debris disposal doubled. Why?
It's not getting any cheaper. I can't really say it's harder to get rid of because in Addiston, they opened up a dump by the old softball. It's just, we've raised it about every other year, and
Okay.
I don't know. And
Okay. So
maybe
that's us
some of it could
dumping
be just
places.
the jobs we
Okay.
get into, maybe.
Thank you, okay. All right, so that's us dumping, like whatever, when you're doing the concrete work or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then my second question is, and maybe I should know this, and excuse me if I should. So you have down there for the salt loader rental. I know we split that, right? This is our share, or this is the total, and then we get reimbursed later?
That's a total with a little extra if we need to rent something in there, but the price has increased a little bit, but it is really an excellent deal. As far as we pay 40%, Hamilton County pays 40, and then Oak Hills pays 20%.
But this is our portion or the total, and then
That is the
we bill
total, we
them?
get reimbursed.
We get reimbursed, okay.
But that total, I can't remember the number off the top of my
No,
head,
that's
but it's
fine.
not 12,000. It's less.
Okay,
But if we want to rent, if we need to rent a chipper or some other small machine, that's also in there too. No, it's a really great deal to split the cost there.
great, okay.
Ron, back on page 1 of gasoline tax, 2024 actual was 112,000 and 2025 is 25,000. Does that mean we're finished replacing trucks?
Yes, we're finished.
Yes.
It's over.
Yes, John, I'm going to ask about
Yeah,
those
ask
trucks.
John.
Yes. We paid those at the very end of the beginning of the year, so yes, we are all
So we're
finished.
done, we're done with those for a while.
For now.
So the
But, well-
25,000 then is actually to cover what?
Last payment.
Yeah, that's the Bobcat attachment.
That's the Bobcat?
Yeah,
Okay.
Attachment, yeah.
yeah, I kind of skipped a page there. Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, the trucks in theory should be built to last about 20 years.
Yes.
Okay.
So we're pretty happy about that.
okay.
And we plan on taking care of them. Let's see. Yeah, I kind of skipped one page here, I think. Yeah, on page 1 of the breakdown of the funds.
Page 1 of, I'm sorry, what?
Of the breakdown of
Overall.
funds, looks like this.
Operating
So
supplies.
we're going to jump over road and bridge and permissive, we're going straight to what?
No,
we're in
we're still in
gasoline.
gasoline.
Oh, we're still in gasoline,
Just on
Yeah.
gasoline.
on page
I
1.
skipped a page, sorry.
Okay, we're back on that one.
Yes, it is the next page after that, longer one.
Yeah,
Under operating supplies, and then with us looking at this attachment for our skid steer and stuff, we did raise our asphalt amount from 30 to 50,000. So that's where you're picking up the percentage increase on the main page.
okay.
Salt is, it's, the winters have been pretty light, so, and anything we don't spend goes to, it's a quiz, paving. Yeah, next year, and then,
Yeah.
it goes to paving.
Yep.
So
Well, they say we're going to have as many snows as the first day that you had it on. What's today, 22nd?
it's not over yet.
I know. So we're
It's
expecting
not-
22?
It's knocking on our door. Okay,
Yeah, I
so-
heard that. Whatever the first day is, that's how many snow days you can quote expect. And another one, somebody used another formula that it was like 18. Oh, how many days we had fog in the summer is how many snow days you're going to have in the winter. That,
I've never heard
keep track
that.
of how many fog days we had.
well, the weather,
Oh, the Weather Channel does that for me?
18 days. So we're going to have somewhere between 18 and 22 snow days
That would be a big year.
if we followed.
It used to be about 23 events a year roughly, and lately, past few years, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
About 10, so half.
We're going to need that salt.
Yeah.
I'm
Could
anxious
be.
to see at the end of the season if it's true, so I am going to keep track. Yeah. All righty.
Okay, so
I
that is
digress.
it for gasoline. I think I answered all the questions. Move to
I'm good.
road and bridge.
I'm good. Anybody else?
Done.
Okay, first page, under salaries, you'll see a little bit of increase from budgeted of 24. One of that is we do have an open spot. I believe Parks kind of did the same thing for a service worker 1. We just filled a position that was open, and this would be adding an extra just because of the struggle we've had for the past, 5 to 7 years of just filling these positions. We've gone more than one summer with, just 2 road guys, just trying to fill positions and stuff. So it's definitely, and we're kind of going back and forth. I know I've talked to Melanie a lot about it, a little bit about with Skylar. So It's budgeted. We haven't pulled the trigger yet, but we'd like to keep that in there. And then the other thing is an overlap for our office manager. She will be
Are you
retiring.
expecting a retirement?
Yes, early next year. Yeah.
So this is an overlap, because I was going to say that's a pretty low salary to bring somebody in.
Yeah, it's an overlap.
The end of,
Yeah, sorry. I switched it.
So
Yeah.
you're going to train
4 months or
replacement.
Late
end of
in
2025.
25. Yeah.
You know, this is something Ron and I talked about. You know, we've certainly been given more than our fair share of notice for this possible retirement, but we're still looking at what, a first quarter retirement, 2026?
That's the way it's looking.
Yeah. So we wanted to budget something in 2025. You know, we didn't want to wait. We didn't want to wait until January 2026.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Hate to see her go. She's helped out with a lot of big projects and stuff. So, but you know, hopefully we can overlap and get some of that information out of her.
Smart planning.
Okay, moving on to the breakdown sheet. Yeah, that's all in there. I have it highlighted on my sheet, just office manager, service worker. Down at the bottom of that first page, under contracted services, we've been rejuvenating as long as I've been here and before then. And that's kind of maintenance item where you add oils back in the road. John runs that contract. But we were going to take a break on that in 2025. We've lessened a little bit of paving the past few years, and that's usually what you want to follow. So we figured we'd save a little money and hold off a year on that. That would be $35,000. So a little bit of a cost savings on that one.
Yeah, 'cause
Ron, do you want me to put your table up at some point?
We can do that at the end. Yeah,
Just let me know when you're ready.
yeah. And then they can study it for tonight for the Mars TIF maybe.
That's right.
in case we have trouble falling asleep.
Yeah. Okay, road and bridge, yeah, not a lot going on. We mostly do salaries out there. Anybody have any questions? Nothing?
Ooh, no.
All right, moving
Taking
on.
it too easy on him. Come on.
Well, no,
This
he's
is
explaining
great.
it before we get to it, because my
Yeah.
question, what was the FTS1, SW1? So he already answered
Exactly.
my question, and
I know
Take
there's
some
no
notes,
trucks.
guys.
we talked about shared expenses. No trucks.
No trucks.
Come on, twist the screws just a little bit.
Okay, motor vehicle permissive.
I didn't put yours on here.
First sheet, like I said, that new percentage, it comes in handy to see what's going on with a quick reference. But as everybody knows, the medical went up, hopefully a 1 year increase. This is a worst case scenario. I mean, obviously, we're not set up to hire a full-time employee 1st of January, but all that is cushioned in there. So keep that in mind. So that was an increase of, it was less than 100,000, but close.
Always just less than 100.
Yeah,
No
hopefully a
big deal.
1 year thing.
Yeah, let's hope.
Going down with the percentages, the only other thing, couple other things I have marked was small tools and minor equipment, little over halfway down. And that was computers. I know our IT guy, Chris, was pretty overwhelmed this year, so we had it budgeted, but talked to Skylar and Chris, and we just re-budgeted in 25. We never spent the 17,000 in 24.
And you'll see this in a couple of departments where we're going to double up for next year.
I was just going to say, are we getting an over the board, that's what I was going to ask, over the board or just certain ones?
Well, it was the decision based by department, whether or not we could
Okay.
get them in by the end of the year. For example, Chief, I think you're going to get your PCs by the end of the year, so he's not going to do carryover.
Yeah.
There'll be some carryover for admin. We were moving over here. We didn't need to do it. Randy
You
got
moved
his
over
done.
when you moved
They
here.
did that as part of the transition. But yeah, there'll be some admin double up because
Okay.
we'll have the ones from this year plus next year. Ron of Public Works, and then Fire. So those are the big ones.
That's going to be our big ones, okay.
Those will be doubled up, but we didn't spend the money this year.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep, we're just trying to help the other departments out. We're a little smaller, less computers, so if they can get some of the
But you're mighty.
priority ones.
You're
yeah,
mighty and very important.
knocked out. The next one is just fuel. I know Trustee Seavey asked about that. It's a lot of it's based on weather or sometimes hauling jobs we have. Our trucks will tend to use a lot of fuel, but the winters have been light. I did 17,000 for years, and it worked out good. We did raise it a little bit, but you can tell we'll probably finish the year about 13, 14. So I think we're on target. There's a little extra in there for a bad winter. We should be all right.
Well, you never know what's going to happen with the cost per barrel, depending on
That's right.
what's happening.
I can only hope.
On an international scale, what can we do?
Yep.
You know, what new pipeline we get locally, or nationally, rather?
All righty.
Okay, the first breakdown page on motor vehicle permissive. I probably touched base with a lot of this, really. The first section,
You did, yeah.
office manager, already talked about. Service worker 1, still, haven't pulled the trigger on that. Let's see. You can see the insurance difference that I talked about. The other items there is pretty much the same, nothing exciting. Next page. Some building repairs. We like our building, so we do try to keep up on it maintenance-wise. So every year we usually do something to it. This is really a lighter year. A door replacement that I think's the original door from late 80s, early 90s. And some security system and cameras to match what DTS has here was the plan. So it should be pretty nice when we get it knocked out. So again, you see the 5,000 under security cameras and door locks. We did not get to that this year, so we just rebudget for next year. We didn't use it.
Okay.
The rest of that page is pretty standard stuff. Yep. And then just an FYI reminder, like our electricity, Duke, sewer and stuff, we share our facility with Hamilton County engineers, and they pay like 23% of a total. If we do windows at any part of the building, if we do water bill, doors, security, anything, they'll pay a portion of that. So, and they're not even stationed out of there all summer right now, so it works out pretty good.
Nice contract. Nice contract. Okay.
Okay, I'm on the software supports. I don't really have anything highlighted. I think it's pretty much standard stuff.
What's the account number on that?
Yeah.
330, 2231, 330.
360
Oh, is
under
that what it-
contracted services.
Under
Oh,
contracted
okay, down there.
services?
Yeah.
Software and software support.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Got it,
The header got cut off
Yeah.
on one page or the other. Okay, yep.
got it.
Yeah, I don't
So
have it.
page 4, all those 7.69%, yeah.
Yep. I already talked about the PC replacement. That's about all I had highlighted on that sheet. Pretty much standard stuff on that. No questions?
I'm sorry, the 7.69%, did you answer your own question there?
No, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to help my brain and anybody else that wasn't finding
Okay.
the numbers. Those are the ones he was referring to, I was hoping.
Yeah, so those
Yeah.
are all shared services, and that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
just Public Works
percent.
portion of it based on head count.
Great. Okay, any more questions for?
Ron, is there
Okay.
a sheet that says, I get this much from road and bridge, I get this much from gasoline, this is what I'm totally spending as a total department, rather than looking at each one of these buckets separately?
Having to add it.
I don't have one of,
Buckets add up to, and what do the expenses add up to?
I can put one of them sheets together, but I
Put
do
that
not
on the
have one.
highlights page. Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to see a total
Total.
of each one of his pots, and then,
Jim was touching base on that with Parks a little bit. Did you have did you bring a total with you for all? I did not.
No, I did not.
Okay. I mean, our balance, we usually try to keep about a balance of 1.2-ish. And then we, hopefully we build it up above that, and then every other year or what have you, we'll pave and run that down.
I would just like to see a total number for Public Works.
Okay.
Each one of your deposit buckets minus your total expenses, and you come up with what?
Any fund balance.
Yep.
Projected any fund balance, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the front of each account does have estimated resource.
You have estimated on the front
Yeah,
cover
but-
sheet.
We would just like you to do the work for
Do a
us.
summary
All of
sheet.
them together for you, yes.
Just
Okay.
one page for this,
Summary
all your,
sheet, I got
all
it.
four, just boom, 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 here's your
Under in
total.
a Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, we can go home and do that, but.
Like I said, our highlight sheet really touches base with anything exciting on all four accounts,
Yeah.
honestly. So
really
if you had
does,
any
yeah.
questions on that, and then I'll touch base with the sheet that Skylar has up there. It's kind of some of
Yep.
our road paving. John put this together. Kind of nice to show, if you can slide that way a little bit, Skylar.
Which way, I'm sorry?
That way so you can read where the money's
All the way to
coming
the
from
left, you
per
wanna read?
account. Like you can see what, just out of Public Works funds that we put in, it's lightened up a little bit toward the end. And then it's a nice go-to to see what we've spent. You see the sidewalk project there, and I can't see the year. I can see it here. 23.
So we don't have any sidewalks going in 25?
We do not. With a little bit less of paving we're doing there, I'm trying to focus on a, big paving job next
Okay.
few years, or a couple. So we'll be paving in 26, and we have a list, that could vary if we get a light winter, and, we might add to that, or we could add to it on 29. So more of a TIF discussion of anything, but
Yep. So, I'll be honest with you. There's been some good discussions with Ron and I, but I haven't really pushed back because I do feel strongly about keeping up maintenance on roads. So if I appreciate his strategy of building up and alternating every other year so that we can do, instead of doing smaller projects every year, alternating, we get more bang for the buck. We get, effectively more miles, or at least fractions of miles of road per dollar. The TIF contribution to this infrastructure just needs to match up. So Ron and I are, as he's adjusting his infrastructure plan, I'm trying to adjust the TIF master plan to make sure that we're in line. One of the things that the TIF master plan used to do is just every year set aside $250,000 for Public Works. It was good because it adjusted and accounted for that as an end-of-year balance, but it didn't truly reflect how it was getting spent. So we've changed that, and I'm instead of showing $250 per year, I'm tracking with him now. So there'll be years where instead of $250, it's $500,000, or in one case, at the end you can see here, $0, $750,000. We're tracking effectively $250,000 a year. Now, what Public Works did that was very nice for us in 24-25 during construction here is we did do a skip year, but they're not, they're not collecting the full amount. So we get a $250, $250,000 savings, I guess.
Yeah.
But so
We'll take a
they're
rain
losing
check.
out on 1 year, but we're going to make up for it down the road.
Okay, so I'm looking at the change in road condition down at the bottom right.
Yep.
Who does the ratings? And obviously, it's done every 2 years.
You can answer it if you like. Yeah.
I mean, isn't there a program or something, if I remember right, or?
We hire an outside consultant every other year. Now with the technology, they videotape it and put a lot of this together. In the previously, we've used it for grants and stuff. It's really good information. It is a little bit on the primitive side, and we've priced new models of doing this, and it's pricey.
Yeah.
Right now, it's about less than $4,000 a year for an outside source with a lot of good information,
Yeah.
which I think's good bang for our buck. Yeah, if you get a new system now, I mean, yeah, some of the stuff's linked to your phone and all kinds of fancy stuff, but it's 30+ thousand a year.
Pricing that is a little.
So we're pretty happy with what we've been using, and it's come in handy.
Okay. So we have Porterfield, 7.9 miles of road that were rated in 24. Are those the ones that are reflective up at the top in 26?
Yes.
So that's how we do it. They
Yeah,
they
we
move
always
to the
go
top
with
of the list.
Yep. We always go from the worst streets and.
Okay. And fair to good is considered good, and you patch or do whatever you can to sustain it till
Yep.
they end up down at the Porterfield.
The in-house maintenance, we try to focus on better roads to keep them, lasting longer is the goal, which we do, compared to a lot of townships, we do a lot of in-house maintenance. That should help prolong our.
And the rejuvenation efforts, the liquid treatments, if you
Yeah.
will, to keep that together, that's on these roads. This is on the, you're doing that on the very good to excellent, in order to extend their life. When they get down to fair to good or Porterfield, there's no point. They're past the point of that being an effective treatment. So,
So the fact we're going to skip a year, is that going to make their degrading, increase their degrading? I mean,
It doesn't help, no.
So it doesn't help, but let's think about this. The whole point of skipping years and its economy of scale, the bigger the project, the bigger pot of money we have, the more value we're going to get out of every dollar. Okay, so if we can push for a year or two, get that bigger bucket of money, that money's going to literally go further, and we can start trying to push these numbers back down.
I just don't want to accelerate our good ones to start declining because we're saving some money there.
Yeah.
To save it for 3 years to do good for the Porterfield. Then all of a sudden, do we end up with a larger pot of, oh crud, Porterfield because we didn't maintain them with oil or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm just thinking out loud.
No, it's fair. And it is a bit of a crystal ball because what you're seeing is, as we move from, was that 2016 to 2024, we're losing ground. Okay? But the idea, at least the strategy that Ron and John are putting in place is, if we do a bigger project, can we play catch up on that? If we just keep doing if we keep doing smaller projects year over year, this trend is you're gonna see less miles are getting done per year. So this is going to continue to fall. Fair to good and Porterfield are going to pick up.
Skylar, Porterfield, if I go with the color code and I come down and I look at 2024, is that telling me there's 7.9 miles of road in Delhi Township that are failing?
Yes, compared to
Poor or
3.5
failed.
miles in 2016.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's think on that for a minute. And each one of those, except for going from 16 to 18, goes up each time. So by the time we get to, by the time we get to the year we've skipped and the year we work, there's going to be 12, 13 miles of failed roads in Delhi Township.
Some of it depends on the winter and stuff like that. Lighter winters definitely help, not destroy our roads so fast. But there's a lot more logic than just skipping every other year. Like, it's hard to get some of the contractors to even bid on the small projects. Prue's pretty much quit bidding.
All right,
So
well,
we
I'm
only-
going to ask the next question, too.
Okay.
Our main thoroughfares generally are Hamilton County roadways.
Everything
correct?
35 miles per hour is rule of thumb.
Please tell me that our secondary roadways in the township are not on the poor to failed list of roadways.
Yeah, this is no county roads.
This is not county roads. This is road mileage that we take
Know what
care
they're
of.
rated? Do we know what they're
You
rated?
know what they're rated.
I do not, and I don't think they even have a program that has, I think Delhi has been fairly fortunate with what Hamilton County has paved around this area, because we've pushed it and made phone calls, and we use our priority for some of the skip grants, and then that gets county roads paved.
I guess my confidence in their response has been shaken a little bit by the fact that we can't get Greenwell repaved and taken care of. I mean,
Well,
I don't
that's a Duke project.
that's a Duke
That
project.
road
So that's not
wasn't
on Hamilton
in,
County, that's on Duke.
that
All
road
right.
wasn't in
Well, I
bad shape
apologize,
till that
Hamilton County.
project.
Yeah.
And
I know, I saw.
if the weather holds out, the east side of that road will be paved
I
this
thought,
year.
great, here's our first snow day, and they're finally out, they're going to fix Greenwell. Is that what you thought too, Randy?
Is Duke
Like-
picking up the tab for that?
Duke,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the weather holds out, the east side of the road will be paved this year. If it doesn't hold out, it won't be paved till next year.
I'm trying to think where I was traveling over in Green today, and they had worked on some roads, and boy, are they a little rough. I know it was Taylor, over on Taylor. I mean, that was closed forever, and then now it's open, and boy, you talk about rough. That
No,
was a bouncy.
It's a nice reference, to take a look at, and like I said, we don't, any extra money that we spend out of our 4 funds goes right to paving streets. It's what we've always done.
We appreciate that.
And
right.
I do want to give kudos and to Ron and John, Public Works, for actually forecasting, out as far as they do, for having the road assessment program. There are a lot of communities that don't do this, and their replacement schedule or repair schedule is by the seat of your pants and eyeballing it. So these guys are putting a lot of forethought and into an infrastructure management plan for the township. So thank you for that.
Thanks, thank you. But we also don't just pave our failed roads. I mean, unfortunately, you got to kind of keep it in one area to keep the price down and the contractor's happy. But it works out pretty good. They seem pretty happy, and we get good prices because of that.
Good.
There's a science and art to it.
Yes.
And you guys are threading that
Thank
needle.
you.
Any other questions? Okay, so
Question.
that,
I do have a question. We've been pretty fortunate the last couple of years with our SWORTA grants and our sidewalks. Do you see any opportunity with any grants down the road with getting any additional sidewalk work done?
There is opportunity. It's just you have to, and we've talked about this before, you have to have the engineering, and then you have to have the match for all these grants. And you can see on this sheet in if you can go down a little bit, in 23, we did the grant through SORTA for the 3 sidewalks. Well, out of our funds, you can see right there, PW funds, $236,000. And that's probably that's one reason why we probably didn't pave in 24 and 25.
And that was the Metro?
Yes, because we paid that for engineering and for the match, which it was a great project, but it hurts us. And that's why I'm trying to hold off on that a little bit. I am, pro sidewalk projects, but we can't keep sustaining those grant matches and engineering. If the money can come from elsewhere, we can, we can make something happen probably.
Whatever happened to that grant that was for safe walk to school or?
Yeah, we've met and talked to Oak Hills with that, and there was a lot of red tape wrapped around that grant.
Yeah, so
I forget the name of it.
Safe
Sarah.
Routes to
Yeah.
Schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Safe Routes to Schools has gotten more and more complicated, and it's federal dollars, so now you're getting into not only state of Ohio prevailing wage, but then you're getting into Davis-Bacon, which can, you know, unless you're getting a substantial amount of funding for it, you're losing mileage essentially on your, you know, or you're losing the ability to go as far with your projects because it's eating into your
Well,
your
we
local
still have
costs.
a kind of a shaky route to school when you go down Rapid Run to get to the Rapid Run Middle School.
Yep.
That is a rough edge on,
sure.
on,
We are aware of
Yeah.
that, yeah.
yeah.
definitely, yeah.
And
We can
I
certainly
think-
investigate it.
I mean, that intersection down there at Pontius and Rapid Run, I think is,
Dangerous?
yeah,
Any way to put that one?
it exhibits some danger, let's put it that way. And the walking path where the kids walk down to Rapid Run Middle School is so uneven, and it's really unsafe because I'm always afraid they're going to fall over and fall into the highway. So,
Yeah, that's one of our hot spots, that, and we'd like to see one, you know, from the mount on Delhi Pike.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably more requested than that, really, but yeah, they're both up there.
well, hopefully those students are a little older than the middle school kids.
And are driving.
A lot more traffic, though.
Yeah, yeah, not more. Okay. Any other questions on our behalf or on?
There is one thing I want to talk about. You know, we're not really tracking it right now. It's not necessarily a public works project, but it is kind of it's a coordinated project, and that's the ODOT funding that we're going to be receiving in 2026 from the state. That project has a maximum budget of $3.4 million. We spent $40,000 this year on the initial engineering services for that, and going through the preliminary planning stages with the state of Ohio. We have additional funding that's coming out of general fund in the 2025 budget, about $70,000. That's for the actual engineering of it versus the planning.
Excuse me, but that is in reference to Delhi Town
That
Square
is,
and Delhi Pike.
this
Just
is the improvements
So the people
to.
that
De-
are listening
Yeah.
know where we're
Yep.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So that is for improvements in the Delhi Town Square area of Delhi Pike, and it also includes major improvements to Clemmy Drive, which are not only needed for our Delhi Town Square project, but we also have a potential major development happening just to the east of us, assuming that final zoning approval is is granted. So that's going to be, kind of a major extension almost of the Delhi Park Road, across the street. So there is a local match requirement for that. If we were actually at the full 3.4 million, we would be looking at $700,000. That's got to come from somewhere. It could certainly be incorporated at least in part with TIF, possibly general fund reserve. We might, we'll discuss it, but it's not being.
Ron sees his money flying out the door.
So I just have to say, it's not being tracked right now for 2025 because it's not going to have an impact on 2025.
Okay.
But we are going to be refining that and making the capital plan or incorporating that capital plan into the budget for 2026.
Well, I think it's important to say that we are not blind to the fact that something has to be done to handle all the traffic coming in and going out in the future, and that this is the best way economically to be resourceful and respectful of our tax dollars to get this done this way.
Yep, absolutely.
I
And,
think-
based on the planning, the planning studies and review by the state, I think that project's going to come in substantially lower than
Yes.
3.4.
That's what I was just
But,
thinking.
Yeah, so I'm talking about maximum outlay. I think it's going to, that project's going to be reduced. And so our local match will be reduced, proportionally. But I don't have a number for you yet, which is why we don't have, we're not tracking it on paper just yet. It's in the
Okay.
planning stages.
All right, so that should end the discussion on these two departments. We are meeting again tomorrow, same place, same time, at 1 o'clock, to take on the discussion with all the other departments in Delhi Township. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that this special meeting for the budget process of workshopping be adjourned.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Meeting over. Okay, again, tomorrow, 1 o'clock for budget, and our next regular meeting is November 26th here. It's a Tuesday, pay attention, because we don't want to meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, 6 o'clock. Thank you.
November 26th, a Tuesday.
All right, we are recording.
All right. Okay. So welcome, everybody, to our second roundtable of budget discussions for the 2025 budget. It is November 22nd and a little after 1 o'clock. Today, we're going to open the work session with a motion. Are you eating?
Okay, I move that we open the work session of November 22nd, 2024 at 1 o'clock.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. The session's now open. We're going to review the following departments: Fire Department, Police Department first, Fire Department second, General Fund, TIF, and then miscellaneous funds. So, all right. Chief Braun, it's all yours.
Well, good afternoon. So, Skylar, if you could pull up the budget highlights real quick for me,
Not a problem.
the Word document. So essentially, for budget for request for 2025 is $6.94 million. It's an 8.4% increase from 2024. There's a few driving factors like I have listed there. 30.8% increase in medical hospitalization, which equates to $188,000 for us. Salary increases for the collective bargaining employees, which is a 5% raise for 2025. That's about $220,000. We have 27 pay periods in 2025, which obviously there's an increase there. Our payroll is about $146,000 per pay period. And there's some carryover expenditures that are listed there, which I'll highlight as well. 2024 budget's listed there just for informational purposes only. We're still within par, a couple of percentage points off for personnel cost, obviously is a major contributor to our budget, just like everybody else's. Projected year-end expenses are there for us, which is $6,009,000, which is about 93% of our appropriated funds for 2024. You get the revenue listed there for 25, which is $6.3 million. Projected beginning fund balance, and this just kind of goes into what, as far as projecting out levy funds, et cetera. The projected beginning fund balance for 2025 is $5.410 million. The 2021 accounts, or the drug accounts, that's at $63,000. And then projected ending fund balance for 25, given the appropriations that are listed in the requested budget, are listed there. So our ending fund balance is projected to be $4.8 million after 2025. So there's some personnel changes listed there. Officer Steinley resigned. Officer Suppi retired. We hired Officer Petrusti in Tri-Case. Brad Durger, as you are aware, was assigned to the Problem Policing Unit. Justin Larry was promoted to corporal. We hired a part-time clerk, and then Officer Yelhar was just recently assigned to Problem Policing. There's some noteworthy projects there. I don't want to go
Page
through
2.
all of them, but just to highlight a few of them. We bought new patrol rifles. We did some leadership development. We bought some miscellaneous equipment that's listed there. We did some minor repairs to our building. Some PR type of things, adopted class. We graduated to 21st Police Academy. Obviously, everybody enjoys and loves our flock cameras that are obviously helping with solving crimes and catching bad guys and girls when they come into our community, and stolen cars. We did some additional training is listed throughout there. And we bought a new voice stress analysis machine. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, our personnel, that we did the Problem Policing Unit. that's hit the ground running. So, and we did some active shooter response training with Oak Hills and Mount St. Joe. So noteworthy projects in '25. So the new data computers for the cars is going to be installed in January. I'm hoping to do it in December. The big line item for uniform purchases is 16 bulletproof vests, which we get 50% reimbursement for. Armor plates, that was a $20,000 expenditure that was in our budget, but the Citizens Police Academy, our associates last night voted to buy them for us. So they're going to pay $20,000 for armor plates for us. We're going to purchase a drying chamber for our evidence processing room, and I will tell you, and this is a feather for you all in your cap, that I don't know of any other small police agencies that's got a evidence processing room like we have. And that's a feather in obviously Barb Merlin-Brink's cap as well, because we process a lot of our own evidence safely. And there's a couple other things listed there. Items as far as for TIF, as far as requests, which you'll get to later, just police cruisers and the flock cameras. So diving into the budget, unless anybody has any questions with that stuff.
Yeah, I do. So you're talking about these range masters, and we trained, how many this year? I know we
Two.
went through it two.
Two people.
So is your goal to train a majority of the force? Because I see where there's more going to be trained this year.
So what happens is every type of weapon we have requires a different certification.
Okay.
So if they're an instructor in firearm, handguns, they have to go to handgun school. If they're rifle, they have to go to rifle school. If they're shotgun, they have to go to shotgun school. For, pepper ball guns, they have to go to school for that. For, as far as being an armorer, to fix and repair them, they have to go to school for that. So luckily, we were able to do some of the training in '24. We're doing hopefully the rest of it in '25.
Okay.
Chief, isn't that even like specific to model? I mean, it's not pistol training, it's
Yeah.
your M&P pistol training.
No.
Right? It's not?
No,
Okay.
the POTA courses are not. And Jared, you're obviously better at that than I am. And
Yeah, so I think part of the transition to why we're adding new range masters, because I was always a firearms instructor, Rich was always a firearms instructor. We have a lot of other duties now, and so we're hoping to get more people on board so that they can eventually slowly take over all those duties.
And it does give other people things to do, gives them rewards for their good work ethic, and, gives them things to do and look forward to.
Okay.
Any other questions about that? Sorry I went through that so quickly.
We'll get a copy of those.
Yes.
Right? Appreciate that. Okay.
So what I'll do on this, as far as overview of the budget, I'll cover the accounts that jump out to me, then obviously I'll ask, see if you guys have any questions, if that's okay. So the sworn salaries, the 210,190, this year's increase is due to, obviously, like I mentioned already, due to 5% salary increases in the collective bargaining agreement. And this is not additional officers for those listening to us. We're going to remain at 32 officers. The medical hospitalization, I mentioned that before, is a 30.8% increase in medical benefits. Equates to
Hold, Jeff.
Go ahead.
School resource officer, we still share that salary with the school district?
We do.
And that
Okay.
was my question right here. Okay, another one answered.
We
Thank you.
do. So that increases with whatever the collective bargaining agreement is.
Okay, thank you,
You'll see it on one side of the budget, which is the appropriation side, and you'll see it as revenue.
thank you.
We've only collected half the revenue this year because we send them a bill before Christmas break, and we'll get the other
Okay.
half.
Thank you.
Anything else on that?
That's it.
Tax collection fees, you'll see an increase of about $10,000. Obviously, that's equating for the levy that we passed in 2023. Last year, I failed to do that as far as adjust that according to the new revenue funds we were coming in. Trading services, there's a slight increase, and I wanted to highlight this because this year we're setting a goal to try to find a niche for every one of our employees. It builds morale, it builds some buy-in and ownership. We're going to try to send them to something above and beyond what the state mandated training is. Professional and technical services, the 319 account, there's an increase there only for, there's a $16,000 increase due to previous year's carryover, which is this year. The physicals are actually in a couple of weeks, so I'm not sure if we're going to get the bill in time to be able to pay it in '24, so we need to carry that over into '25. Repairs and maintenance building, it stays flat. Actually, it's a decrease because we don't have any planned expenses. Obviously, when we talk about, you know, our building, everybody in this room knows we're kind of limping it along and putting Band-Aids on things to make sure we can keep it going. So when the TIF recovers, hopefully we'll talk about getting a new structure for the police department. Small tools and minor equipment, I mentioned that we're going to buy a piece of equipment, $6,000. As far as for our evidence room, just to keep, you know, for us to be able to, that's mainly for clothes that are soaked in blood or soaked in, it hazardous things that we have to be able to dry out before we can process and package. Uniforms, again, the big increase there is going to be the 16 bullet resistant vest. The total cost, the addition to the budget was $25,600. We do get a 50% reimbursement for that from a federal grant. And then there's a carryover there of $11,300 from 2024 expenses because our friends at Gulf sometimes aren't as quick to get us things. Since COVID, everything really slowed down as far as getting equipment and then getting bills to pay for the stuff. And then just to mention the 2021 accounts, the 22-21 accounts, the drug accounts, everything in that account is flat. There's no difference in anything. Every line item is exactly the same as 2024. And as far as to go back just slightly on the budget highlights, everything that's in this budget and everything that we're purchasing and doing maintains on focusing on the 5-year plan for our levy, and everything is good to go. We're on par for everything. Obviously, we hope not to have another 30.8% increase in health care, but you know, because we budgeted 20% for health care in our 5-year plan for the levy. So that being said, as far as questions for me, we're at 67% after 9 months of the year, which we should obviously average to be 75.
Okay, so you're talking about the drug. Do we have those papers?
That's what I'm looking for.
2221.
Chief, I'm actually going to go in and fix this. Oops.
That's revenue,
That was my bad.
No worries.
but I don't see any.
I don't think it's in here.
It should be at page 14, 15, or that's,
Are we talking about the 22-21 fund?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for?
I'm looking for the drugs, and I don't see anything that has drug on it.
there's a typo at the top, it's page 14, Rose. It should say, it should say drug fund up top.
Drug fund?
Thank you. Sorry, I mean, you're making reference, and I'm like, where
Sorry about
are
that.
these? That's
We'll get
okay.
that corrected on the final
That's fine.
draft.
So it's a drug fund on 14, and that's the explanations on 15, correct? No. Yes. Thank you. Okay. And you're saying those are flat.
All right.
And then what I also I passed out to each of you is the carryover expenses that are highlighted as far as for each account. It's roughly 41,000 and change. I'm hoping to eradicate those as much as I can before December closes.
No, it looked clean to me, going through it last night. Trustee Davis, Trustee Seavey, any questions still out there for you? You still have time to peruse it?
No, pretty thorough, pretty efficient.
No, I commend you for the fact that this year's budget has stayed so close to the correct numbers going forward, so that our carryover is going to decrease as we get the last month's worth of bills in, and we should be right in line with what we projected for 2024, so I expect the same for 2025.
Amen. That's the goal.
Good management of tax money.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you. Any other questions? We're good with them? We can move on then to Fire Department and Chief Campbell.
Good afternoon. So just in a general highlight sense, what we're looking at is most of the heavy lifting budgetarily. We are preparing for our second year of our 3-year funding cycle for our levy. So this being the first year, most of the financial movement occurred this year to accomplish some big capital items that we typically don't run. Generally speaking, personnel costs this year are much in line with what they've been in years past. We average anywhere between 83-85% of overall budget personnel costs, 12% to 15% operating costs, what it takes to run out of 3 stations with the fleet and things, and about a 1 to 3% range for capital expenditures, and those were, trucks and things like that. Do not come out of TIP funding and things like that. Looking at where we're on track of the year. We're currently at 70%, 3/4 of the year, but I see us closer to 95% expended on proposed budget by the time we reach the end of the year. So we'll be a little bit tighter in estimates. I think typically we are in that 92-93% range. This one's just going to be up a little bit higher. Nothing out of the ordinary with this year's expenses. I think everything's tracking well. I'll make note of specific carryover items in the budget as it relates to things that typically we're not going to get paid for this year, but you've already approved in terms of spending. With the increase that we're looking at between 2024 to 2025 proposed, you're seeing about a $300,000 difference in the 2 years. If you look at it, the biggest pressure that I have, and I'll go into more detail, is on the personnel side. That's really where we're having to make up a lot of our costs and expenditures and things like that. But still, again, tracking normal where we would expect to find ourselves in a getting ready for a second year of a 3-year cycle. So,
Are you including healthcare in your personnel cost?
yes, so personnel costs will be in all these line items from salary all the way down to the unemployment compensation. So
Thank you.
that all those line items count as my personnel. All right, so I can go into detail if you want to bring up the salaries page. So some of the big things that we're faced with is this is a highly likely year for 3 retirements. In the past, we haven't been faced with those challenges where it's been evident that this is probably going to happen. Again, these folks can make the decision to change their mind, but reading the tea leaves, looking at the legacy costs that are associated with these 3 senior employees, that's in the neighborhood of $145,000 in retirement costs that we will have to endure next year as a result of this. Now, again, you're talking personnel that have served 30 years, in excess of 30 years. So there's accumulated legacy costs in terms of sick and vacation. So we've accounted for that. So this is a balancing act. You understand my revenue comes from 2 sources. It's fire and then EMS reimbursement through the ambulance fund. What we're doing in this budget is we're offsetting the retirement costs from the EMS fund. I'm allowed to do that because it's a paramedic salary. So basically, you'll see, and I'll go into detail again, on the EMS side, there's an increase of $150,000 to cover salaries, so we eat the cost. So what it does is it helps those reimbursement funds defer a little bit of the tax burden side of things. So I'm taking that burden off the tax levy. What I can't undo are some of the other little hiccups there. So contractual employees settled on a 3.5% increase. That's a known factor. Part-time with my proposed is the same thing, going with a 3.5% increase. But the change up is going to be that what happens with that 27th pay. So that is included in this as well. So when you look at the EMS side, the salary went from $450,000 coverage to $600,000 to cover the $150,000 in retirement. And then there's a $23,000 marker there just showing the extra 27th pay. So we've accounted for everything financially. It's hitting all at once. One other added note is with their contractual negotiations, they're going from a 6-step to a 5-step. So they are squeezing that, and that is an artificial percentage increase in that balance as well. Some of the things that we have contractually given, our full-time people can pick up extra shifts at their standard rate, which is an advantage to the township to get extra shifts covered, where there's vacancies, call-offs, things like that. Well, not call-offs, but where it's scheduled time off, we can accommodate that at their straight rate rather than mandating people in or forcing them in on overtime. That has done tremendous in reducing our overtime costs. I think I just looked at it earlier. We're well under, I think typically 35,000 is what we set aside. We're not barely half of that. So that's an advantage to bring folks in at their straight time rate. So though we have those coverages, but longevity is part of their negotiated rate when they have acting officers, things like that, all has to be covered. Vacation buyout, that $30,000 that's set aside for that example is they don't have to cash out their vacation, but I have to make sure that the money is there in case they all do, and that's all that is. So that tends to be a placeholder. So I have no carryover funds, but you can see how this is set up on this form. That 2281 there and other salaries, that's at $623,000. That's coming out of the overall wages because that's what we're funding from the ambulance fund.
Doug?
Yes.
You have used the EMS fund many times to fund squad necessities. So
yes,
are we going to need this funding again for new boxes or new squad pieces?
So that is part of
what does this allow you in there to accommodate that need as well?
Yes. It's more of a planned expense. So it usually takes 3 or 4 years of known, I guess, kind of cuts or maintaining the expenditures in order to save up enough in that fund to pull the trigger on those capital expenditures and things. Right now, we're not, because the majority of the funding is going towards salaries. It has been that every year, but if you've noticed in the past, an ambulance has come out to the tune of $250,000. That's because I knew that purchase needed to exist 3 years in advance. And again, those are to hold off other things when we're all working together to try to kind of maintain costs.
Okay, I have a question before you move on, since we're talking personnel. Are 3 potential retirements or full-time?
Full-time and officers.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, and the numbers that we're showing in 23 and 24 are what was budgeted, not the actuals, correct? Okay. Just want to clarify in my mind.
The proposed buckets in those arenas. And again, you typically don't see these in the UAN and the accounting form. I'm providing them so you can see how I mix those numbers in. And so, for instance, $130,000 in coverage for extra shifts in 2023 went to $120,000 last year.
Right.
Well, there's some big changes which I'll kind of segue into the part-time. The expenditures in 23, we were at $470,000. We didn't spend near that in part-time staff. We had 10. Today we have 27.
Right.
I told the board, when we were looking at levy funding, we are really strained in terms of fixing our staffing problem. That being because of the number of runs, we need a higher level of daily staffing. And I said, I got 2 options. I can hire more part-time people, try to fund it that way, which hasn't been successful in the past, or we can go to the full-time model, which always works, but it's expensive.
Right.
So this was about a $180,000 to $200,000 a year gamble in part-time staffing, which is starting to show itself. Our average daily staffing is up 1.2 people per day. I mean, I can't do that with full-time. Full-time also, those expenses to hire and cover the same amount is closer to $325,000 a year. So it's definitely to try. First try is part-time. Second try, if it doesn't work, has to be full-time because there's no way to maintain those levels.
Well, that leads into my question, too,
Yeah.
because if you got 3 full-time retirements, are we going to try and replace those with 3 full-time?
Yes.
Part-time
Yes.
people that were
And
full-time?
we will,
And
of
they will
course,
be
look at our
officers.
part-time people first is being interested in moving up to full-time?
At 27 people now to choose from versus 10, yes.
Okay.
I'd say that that's a good
And in
plan.
discussions, and this was part of what leads up to it, is we haven't had great success recruiting from the outside and maintaining that. We have had a few stars kind of come in from the outside, but I can tell you this day, most of the people that have left came from the outside, didn't stick around long and left. I think this model's a little different. We've got a part-timer who we've been to evaluate for a year and a half, and we know what we have. We know that when we sit down and interview them, what their work history is with us. I feel it's a much more comfortable gamble than just coming to somebody cold and saying, hey, we got this person from the outside.
And so many times that when you read to us that someone's leaving a part-time position, they're going to a full-time position.
Typically, yes.
So I'd like to see our part-time have that opportunity to.
That we've invested in.
Yes.
That we'd like to keep
That we've
here.
already,
Yeah.
Right,
exactly.
and big factors in that, when I came to the board and I said, we need to adjust the wages, we're really underwater with this. You guys all hopped on it, and I can tell you, that's what we're seeing, the changes. Even though we've lost some, we've been able to quickly scoop some other people up, and we've been able to maintain those rows. And that's important, because that's a difference between 3 people showing up on a truck and 4 people showing up on a truck. And that's what I'm telling you is this is the most cost-effective way to do it, and it's a crapshoot. I told you I could come back to you in 3 years and go, folks, this didn't work. We got to look at Plan B, but I didn't want to do that right off the get-go, and certainly Chief Helms has played a huge role in getting us back on track with recruitment, retention, and really kind of doing those things to encourage our internal staffing and working with that. So it's easy. So part-time, much bigger expense now than it has been in the past, but that's what we're seeing. Another added thing, with the number of staff that are going to training, I would say right now there's about 8 people on my radar that have applied or already enrolled in paramedic school as part-time. And again, remember, we've been stuck with having to fund that. The fact that we've got that many interested in that kind of career growth, that kind of makes it easier to bet on them for a full-time hire as well. So they're on the radar.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
No big changes with civilian staffing's remaining the same. The kind of the call out is this only it covers my administrative assistant and our social worker in a part-time capacity. Are there any questions on any of the remaining personnel stuff that I didn't cover? I would love to tell you that there's something really sexy going on with operating expenses, but operating expenses are what they are. Some of the bigger call-outs would be just like our facility maintenance contracts and things like that, IT. We all share in some of that. We are becoming much more tech heavy. And some of my increases in terms of my direct costs and indirect costs are because we're so much more electronic now than in the past. I mean, we just talked the other day going to a new records management system. What do we do with EMS runs and all of a sudden one of the iPads goes down? Well, I think other than me and John and maybe a few people, we've written an EMS report on a piece of paper. That is how electronic we are. These things are all kind of moving that direction. I know it's less of a burden on Chris in terms of our IT and things like that. It's moved off the server. So we've done our due diligence. This was a 1.5% increase in terms of our operating costs. And again, that's 3 stations and a fleet. I think we're right now, I think if you look at total facilities, $14 million in facilities, and we are at $5 million in fleet. So rather large capital expenditures that are operated with just an 1.5% increase this year. So the fund.
But on facilities, I was noticing Station 33.
Yes.
We still have a high maintenance and repair on Station 33.
The gift that keeps on giving.
It just, every year we look at Station 33.
You're going to make me say this, aren't you?
So
Where's Wood? Okay, this year.
I mean, we replaced the boiler. Is that functioning?
Yes.
We've
Boiler's
replaced
functioning.
HVAC. We've
Yes.
replaced windows.
Yes.
The doors now open and close.
Don't do
Yeah,
it.
that is where we're at, is I don't want to draw attention to it for whatever karma reasons. Yes, Station 33 hasn't been the perpetual gremlin that it is, but we prepare for the worst with it, and certainly we get hit with the normal maintenance things. The building is 20 years old, but it's very well maintained in terms of what we need to take care of it. So again, if I'm only telling you it's 15% of my budget and it only went up 1.5%, let's take it. I think we can maintain that with the fleet and the facility. So we're doing good. Again, it speaks volumes of where the board has been in terms of our capital replacements and equipment and maintenance and stuff. You guys have been on board with all those things. This is just proof that it's working.
Doug, quick
Yeah.
question. With taking over that building, I mean, has that helped with overall efficiency of the department?
It has with the space. So if you recall, we've always paid for the maintenance and things like that. I think at the most maybe collected $2,700 in rent, technically. But what we have now is we've utilized pretty much almost 30,000 square feet of that building. So yes, for us, it's efficient. Our office staff, our workflow, we have always had rooms for things. It's just we didn't have room for them. We couldn't fit in the room. Other things were shared. So no, it's very efficient. I'm happy with the way we've laid out. I've got no complaints with the facilities the way they are now. They're being maintained well. Yep. Yeah, no issues.
Great.
And then there's always the fun 1 to 3%. If you would just go down to the 700. Unless you guys have any questions on contractual stuff, it's pretty straightforward.
Contracts are contracts.
Yep.
Going to the 700s? Okay.
So I'm looking at 9 of 9 there on the fire side. So here's our 1 to 3%. SCBA decon appliance. The board is well aware we have the clean concept in our fleet, that we are very big in cancer prevention. We're providing second sets of gear for our personnel. We're taking all the additional costs and responsibilities to reduce their exposure to carcinogens. It's not 100%, but it's a long way. This device should be installed shortly before the end of the year. We've got it in on a try before you buy, and this device will clean all their breathing apparatus, kind of like a big dishwashing machine, far better than what we can do and a little bit more thorough. So that's a big ticket item. We got some more drone things coming to help with our operations there. Typical gear replacement, typical fitness equipment replacement, more additional SCBAs, and then some ancillary things in and around the station. You can see nothing absolutely huge. The biggest expenditures there are on our personnel. So the SCBA decon and the replacement, the cyclical structural gear replacement, they're costing about $4,000 a set now, upwards of $4,200. So it's a huge investment. Any questions on those?
Any grants available on any of this?
That's where
Hey,
we're really.
I'm looking for, state and federal money if we
Sure.
can find it.
So where we're limited in terms of state funding is we are too big a jurisdiction. Most of the jurisdiction cutoffs are what, 25,000? 25,000 is the population, so we exceed that. And those are typically trying to go to underfunded volunteer departments that can't get those trainings. It's not that we don't look at them, but it's real easy to open up that form, look at the application and go,
Right.
That's
Well,
not us.
Actually, Assistant Chief Helms and I have discussed this, about the fact that so many of the grants stop at 25,000 as far as population. And I think this is going to come up and be more of a, I don't want to call it an arguing point, but a bargaining point for clout for the large Ohio urban townships, because we are missing out on a lot of possible state and federal money.
Yeah.
Over, some of us are only like 3,000 population over that 25,000 mark, like ourselves. And we're just looking to have them change that to include some of the larger townships as well.
We have received close to $2 million in total federal funding for the assistance to firefighter grants in the last 15 years. I will tell you now the challenge is, before you would never have to show your capital outlay. Now you do.
Now you do.
And if you identify it, what they tend to do is, if you've got these capital funds and we say, hey, here's a shared pot of TIF funds that we have available, in the application process, they don't care what is available to me. They're saying that's your local government's choice by having that not spent on you. So it does make it hard now to get federal funding because we do have capital outlay. So if I'm looking at equipment to offset, they really look hard at it and they go, well, you maybe have $1 million here available to you, but it's not really to the fire department. It's the police and public works and everything like that. They don't look at it that same way. So I will tell you, it's gotten increasingly hard, but where we've made up for it is we've had a couple payroll, COVID-related ones. We have been able to capture those, I think 40,000 total out of that one. That was a nice bonus, and that's for our personnel for retention and things like that. John received the $18,000 grant for a fire extinguisher and prevention. So they're out there. We're looking for them, but they're not the wow, big $200,000, $400,000 ones. We're still trying, but yeah, it is tough. What's that? Oh, yeah. So one of the things that I'm working on right now is we know that the state of Ohio has an opiate settlement to deal with, how we remediate for opiate overdoses. Again, it's half to 1% of our runs. It's not a big line item, but the settlement has started to infuse funds to Delhi that we can use to remediate some of those things. So going forward, I think I looked at the account. We've accumulated $63,000 since 2021, and those are settlement from drug companies that made a settlement for the opiate funds. And we can use things like auto injectors for Narcan, nasal Narcan. We can offset ambu bags, the type when we do respirations and things like that on EMS calls. So we're looking to kind of offset that as well. But that is not grant. That just happens to be funds that we can receive.
Settlement funds.
Exactly. That looks to probably be $15,000, $20,000 a year we can save in drug costs, to offset that with the Narcan replacement.
Is that type of funding available to use with your risk management team with Bobby and what she does?
Technically, yes. The reason we can't use that for her is we don't follow in the fire side the QRT model. I know Kaylee's much more in that realm because our social worker doesn't deal with addiction and things like that. That's just how we do the response. If we brought in another person that sole responsibility was to help with overdose, opiate related things, absolutely, those things can be helped to control any of that remediation. But right now, that's not an intended use for us.
Okay.
That's a good question. On the ambulance side, follows the same model. We talked about the salaries, which is the biggest expense out of there. I can jump to some of the trainings that we're looking through. I want to call out the $38,000. Again, that is to send 3 people to paramedic school for a full year. That's just the tuition cost because it is, we do track that as if it's being run through Cincinnati State. They're the higher of the groups. If we hire a paramedic, that money comes off the table. Does that make sense? Yeah. This is only to train them up to that point. And that's why that's such a significant one. We've done this in the past. You've seen it before. I think that is a tremendous thing in showing our folks that we're investing in them. Hopefully they get the point and then stick with us for a long time. We are going to try some other things out of the box. We're looking into a cadaver lab. That's rather expensive, but it's like better than an anatomy of physiology book. If we can get this on site, we can have our paramedics there and actually work through. You want to go any details like on
I'm
what
sorry,
they're
when
looking
you,
at?
wait, Chief, when you say on-site, you mean on-site here, or they go on-site to the lab?
They go to the lab.
Okay, good.
They go to the
I was
lab.
going to say,
Thank you.
our refrigerator downstairs.
Do we bring the lab here, or do we go to the lab? Okay, yeah, that's right.
We do
yeah.
have a room, yeah.
We'll have to book a room for that.
Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, we're looking at two different
Not the
things. We're looking
kitchen.
at a collaboration through either Mount St. Joe or one of the hospitals, and one of their doctors would facilitate basically the dissection of the body and stuff like that. And they go through with the lesson and the procedures on what we do. So like when we intubate, where exactly does the tube go in the body? And we would get to see exactly how that goes. When we do a needle decompression, where that goes inside and stuff like that. And so it's really good for visualization that you actually get to see it. So it's something that we haven't done in quite some time. It's been actually since I think the 90s that we've actually had one of these. You do sometimes, it depends on the school. When they go through medical school, you get one, but it doesn't come around a lot. So that's kind of what we wanted to throw out there to our people.
And again, when you're losing 3 senior people, officers, we've got to figure out how to redevelop those that are left behind. So these are all key factors in their training. We increased the training budget. That's ideally to address those deficiencies and get people up to speed, because it does take time to kind of capture that. Contracted services, the big call out is Stryker's service agreement. As the board recalls, we just went in with the LifePak 35s. So the automatic CPR devices, the cots, all that is Stryker products. They all fall under the same maintenance program, and it's significant because that is, I looked at it, it's over $1 million in equipment easily that we are maintaining, and it needs to be in top line. So that's just kind of where we're at. Just to round it out, I don't have anything major to call out in terms of our capital other than we are going to work on our EMS inventory. So in that 700 block on 7 of 7, I've called out where we are getting like a vending machine for EMS supplies. We're going to actually have it tracked electronically so that our orders are going to be a little bit more timely. We'll know when we're running short of things, and then we're just going to bring it under the fold. It's kind of an audit system is the way it is. And then carryover fleet purchase, I had this on the fire side as well. Basically, what the board needs to understand is you approved buying vehicles this year in the 24 budget. We are coming towards the end of the year, and I have invoices that have not hit yet. I still need to spend the money, so these carryovers are me calling it out in next year's budget that we will spend it next year, but it's funds that you've already authorized, and it's just showing itself in that. With that being said, the only TIF request that I have is we do have our last ambulance remount that is scheduled to go up February of next year. A new ambulance cost $395,000. This is getting done for $210,000. The box is a 2014. So we are one of the
off.
Our current box is a 2014. So the box gets put on a new chassis. They bring it up to code and standards, but we are one of the only departments, and I have asked around, that are taking advantage of this re-chassis process. It's state procurement, so we're getting the deals that have already been negotiated with these terms, but you go out and talk to other communities that are buying ambulances, and you look at the amount of time that they're waiting. We're just a little bit over 14 months. There's 2 and 3 years, depending on the ambulances they're speccing. We've already gone full gasoline. That has allowed our repair budget to stay that $16,000 range. Most places are spending $16,000 per ambulance. I've got 4 that we're maintaining for that. It's one of those things where we've done it all right up to this point by just taking common sense approach on how we're funding it. And I'd like to get to the point where the people that realize it the most are the folks that are paying for it. So the taxpayer is getting cost-effective measures, the decent equipment. A lot of it's under warranty. A lot of that is in good shape, and so they're the ones benefiting the most. But I had 2 options: buy a new one for $395, make do with what we have, use $210. That's really what it is, and that's what this TIF expenditure is for next year.
So when you get this new box, it has all that.
New chassis.
You're getting a new chassis.
Yes, the same box is moved over.
Oh,
and
I always thought we did a box on a new chassis. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So you take a unit that has over 100-some thousand miles on it as an ambulance, and you put a new one that has like 50.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That,
But it
Got it
will be
straight.
brought up to standards, so they make sure the interior of the box meets all they call them triple K standards for ambulances. What that'll allow them to do is the paramedics operating in the back will be just as safe as if they are in a box
Okay.
right off the production line today.
okay.
Doug, one of the recent questions that I got from a resident was the cost of the baby box. And I said, that was, 2 years ago as far as being budgeted for what we were doing. But ongoing, that's part of our regular alarm system, is it not, from Zuber?
So the fortunate thing is outside the upfront cost to maintain that baby box, the state of Ohio gets their registry every year, $500.
Okay.
And then we pay $200 to Safe Haven to come out, inspect the box, make sure that it's done. $700 a year, that's it.
Wow.
So the original support of,
So if you remember, the box was paid for with a grant. That
Right.
was $10,000. Turner donated the installation.
Installation.
That was $0. Zuber
Zuber did the
donated the
security.
alarm, and they donated the monitoring, $0. So wholeheartedly, it was a team effort, community effort, $700 a year.
And
what about the
Five people.
charities? I thought they did something. Was that a one-time involvement?
It was a one-time involvement, and that covered the cost for the first year registration
Registration,
fee.
that's what I thought. Okay, thank you. That's what I was,
And this was not a malicious or vicious inquiry. It was just say, what do we have to pay for that every year? And I said, minimal when you think about saving a life with the baby box.
Yes, and it's an insurance plan, absolutely.
That's it.
Yep.
all right. Any questions of the chief, any more?
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, now we're moving on to the general fund. Mr. Miller.
Lucky me, I think I get the rest of this meeting.
Yeah, I do believe.
Guys, so. Okay, much like last year, this is still a transitional year for the general fund. We've obviously taking on a much larger facility, and we've expanded our operations to include the contracted services through HFIT for our athletic club as well as our Delhi Event Center. So there are some high costs associated with that this year that you'll see, but there's also the promise of some substantial revenue by the end of this year and then moving on into future years. So let's go ahead and get this started. Nothing too exciting here, but we are seeing a roughly $360,000 increase to the general fund, and we'll dive right into the details on that. First thing, we are looking at a substantial increase in salaries. Some of this is because we're adding an additional person into the fiscal office. Of course, everybody knows Julia will be going on maternity leave early next year, so we're bringing Melissa on now to start training and be able to smoothly transition into that position. So for a good portion of next year, because we pay maternity leave, we're paying double salaries for.
Skylar, please note for everyone that's listening that the salaries for trustees and fiscal officers are set by the state.
The salaries of the fiscal officer and the
Just-
trustees are statutory. They are set by the state. We do not give ourselves, or the board does not give themselves raises. They receive the compensation as prescribed by the state. So, and they don't receive additional compensation. So no cell phone reimbursements, no
Cars.
nothing that, yep, you're
Fuel.
maxed out based on that salary cap by the state. So again, a big shift here. I know it looks like a $200,000 increase from prior years, but we are doubled up in the fiscal office. When Julia comes back, she'll be transitioning into a part-time role, so we will see some drop-off on that. So we do have a little bit of built-in cushion here because we are assuming 2 full-time positions at this point. We are also bringing the, what is now the Special Projects Administrator back from the zoning budget into the main general fund line. They're both general fund, whether it's the zoning fund
Transfer in,
or
transfer out.
our 1,000 fund, it's all coming out of the general fund pot. So it's a one-to-one transfer in, but it does inflate this, this particular fund cost. And then
Mr.
finally.
Miller, excuse me just a second. Chief mentioned it, and you have it up here on the screen of the 27 pay periods. This year, when they refer to we're all incurring an additional pay period because of the way the calendar falls. And we're paid bi-weekly, so therefore we have 27 pay periods instead of 26, which also increases everybody's pay. So
You're
just
getting ahead of my presentation.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
The thing is, I wanted to say it when Chief was talking, and I thought, let's explain what they mean by the 27 is we get a double whammy this year.
And this has an impact across all of our departments. People that are paid bi-weekly, which is all of us, we are going to see a one-time additional paycheck this year, just by the way our pay periods fall. It happens, Melanie, every 9-10 years? Yep.
Right.
So, yep.
But again, it does not impact the trustees or fiscal officer.
Thank you.
We just have to skip a paycheck.
So you're not going to get additional compensation, but as a board, you need to decide.
Which week?
Yeah, so we can either skip a pay period so that your compensation stays the same. You can go to monthly. So instead of 26 payments, you can go to 12. I don't necessarily recommend that. You could spread your compensation out over 27 pay periods, but then you are getting less every pay period. So
I see Melanie over there frowning.
I recommend we just skip the last pay period.
It could be that simple.
Easiest for you?
Yep. So we could even look at one of the months where
we
where
get
we have
three periods and take one out.
and just cut one out.
Okay. But that's not to be decided today because we're not voting on things today, so.
No, but
Worth a discussion.
the budget accommodates it for employees, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what position you have on it. The board is maxed out. So.
The last time was in 2014. I had to go back.
Yep.
10 years.
And it actually had no impact on the board at that time because the board was paid monthly. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Just to clarify that, we don't want to be talking out both sides of our mouth.
It is
But,
one
yeah.
time, we have to factor it into, our salary budget, but it really doesn't weigh in on the raises because it's one time. They're not going to enjoy that benefit, for their entire tenure. Let's see. Where was I? Oh, finally, so we have a line here for event attendance. This is the people that are serving beverages, both at the lawn bar and within the event center. Those are township employees, general fund employees that are facilitating the use of the liquor license that we have with the CIC. We're accounting for that as a general fund expense. At the end of the year, we will receive a reimbursement from the CIC to cover the cost of those hours. So it's an upfront cost. We will be reimbursed. The idea is that the liquor license is going to support itself and not be taxpayer funded. Okay.
Do we have heat in here? Not right now, they don't.
The other item, there's nothing really sexy like we talked about with personnel in here. We did unfortunately have a high renewal with our medical insurance. All of our departments are having to accommodate the 30.8% increase, although we have implemented some mitigating practices that would allow for moving to if there's a spousal benefit to move employees over, that's actually a cost savings to us. So we are anticipating for everybody that we have in the general fund to stay on our plan, but we're hoping and looking forward to some reduction on that line. And I bring this up now because when we talk about transfers out, on a separate sheet, it's going to have an additional impact that actually benefits police and fire. So, and that's a one-time. Little foreshadowing, we'll get to that. Okay. Another item, it's been many years since our law director has received any type of salary increase for his time. There has been a request from Dinsmore to up the hourly rate by $25, so we're accommodating that with a small bump here. See.
And like you said, it's been a couple years since we've done that.
I want to say 4 years.
Yeah, I was
at
gonna
least.
say it's been a
Yeah,
while.
I mean we have enjoyed a very good rate of all of our of all of the clients we have. Well, we had the lowest rate, so now we're still on the low end. So it's I think we're getting our money's worth.
Oh, definitely.
So other than that, we've had some shift and changes, just small modifications to training lines, evaluating who will be going to leadership development trainings or to out-of-area conferences. Nothing too significant there. Let's see. The one large item that we're looking at in general fund, we talked about it yesterday when we were talking about the Delhi Pike improvements. Again, that is an ODOT grant that we received for $3.4 million, but there is a local match proportionate to that, up to $700,000. We are currently working, we worked through the study this year. Next year, we will be actually doing the engineering. So this year, we had $40,000 in planning funding. Now we're moving to the engineering, which is about $70,000. I also have in here, this is not a specific project yet, but I've added $30,000 to this for possible improvements and engineering costs related to site improvements that weren't part of this original DTS package, possibly for some patio lawn improvements. We're also looking at possible stormwater improvements between the main DTS site and the surge tank. We have some issues on the site that could certainly benefit from improvement. I don't think we're going to have anywhere near $30,000 in engineering services for that, but I wanted to cover our bases. So if the general fund has a slush fund anywhere, it's that $30,000, and we're going to be miserly with it.
Okay.
So, of course, there's no spending authority attached to that, so that'll be for a future discussion with the board.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Nuisance abatements, we really haven't been using this fund. We use it on a regular basis, but we're not expending the full amount. So Jim and I dropped that a little bit. The other thing you'll see in our expenditures, and this is for the benefit of the turnover at the beginning of the year, we're rounding all of these up to rounding them up to the nearest 1,000 instead of having
all those penny extensions.
Yeah, all these little cents. So that is it for our General Fund 110. The next section is going to be what used to be called Town Hall and Grounds. This will actually be, I'm proposing it be renamed to 934 Neeb. So this is our old administration building. This is, we still have maintenance and utility costs associated with this site. Chief has taken over some of these with, garbage and trash removal. And I think one thing that we still have in here is the recycling dumpsters, which it's actually at the senior center. It's part of that project, but it's historically always been in here. Everything else is cost associated with keeping 934 Neeb operational. I will say we do have a great opportunity to have another public entity come in and lease that space from us. So we're trying to finish out that proposal to take it to the board for review. But this would be money well spent, assuming that we're going to be collecting revenue from this. And of course, as it stands right now, at least for this next year, any revenue that we bring in would be a general fund benefit. So.
Okay. Any questions, Trustee Davis or Stevie?
I've got one more fund. So these
Well,
are
that's fine.
these are the other funds associated with general fund. So you have your non-street lighting districts that we're still paying for street lighting and traffic signals. This is your lights out on the Pike and other areas where there's not a street lighting district. We've bumped up that just a little bit to cover the cost of those. Of course, it's currently called Remke site. Let me pull this up here. But we are renaming that Delhi Town Square. So this is, if you recall, we were using that Remke site to fund the HFIT contract for the operation of the athletic club, the event center, and it essentially covers their operating costs. So month over month, they are collecting more revenue. They have a budgeted fixed amount of expenses. We're anticipating that both the athletic club and the event center operations will be operating in the black by late next year. We're looking, a target date for that is October. So we do need to cover essentially the red expense up until that point. Every month, that dollar amount is going to decrease as they continue to generate revenue. Jim and I are currently estimating that at approximately $925,000. Okay. So, and lastly, we talked about, I alluded to this before, medical contingency. Both police and fire anticipated a certain amount of increase in their medical expenses year over year, and that was part of the levy structure. For Jeff, that was 20%. For Doug, that was 17. We're at 30.8 this year. What we don't want to do is bust the levies and have to go back to the community and say, hey, we've got to renew earlier than what we promised. As a mechanism to do this, like I said, we're anticipating savings on our medical billing by those mitigating programs, but we wanted to cover that overage here. So this would be an end-of-year transfer out to police and/or fire to cover their overage for this year, over their 20% and 17% respectively. So I don't anticipate using this full amount. It's just whatever they go over. And another thing to keep in mind is we just passed the resolution yesterday that approved the reimbursement from State of Ohio back into the general fund for $750,000. We're able to do this contingency support to police and fire because we have a very healthy general fund reserve balance. So that's where that's coming from.
Okay.
The math's not happening there.
Please. Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's where are we at?
36550, yeah.
Right here? Oh,
Yes.
I do see that. So that would be, yep, 360, 550. All right, we will update that to reflect the number. So the detail is correct. I think we just have a formula error there. So thank you for that. Yep. All right, so that will be up. That will be up by the 160. Okay. That's all I have for general fund. If there's any questions. Okay.
Okay. Tiff,
TIF.
our favorite?
So I'm actually going to detour from the
There's a
standard
transfer
TIF
out.
sheet. You can certainly follow along with the detail page.
Wait a minute,
What I
Skylar,
want to bring up is the
Cheryl
master
just
plan.
asked about that zoning,
Are we gonna
$200,000.
go
Oh.
through
Are we
zoning?
going over zoning then?
Do have zoning. Let's
Yeah,
talk about
sorry.
zoning.
They're the transfer out from your general
Since
fund.
So
In here now, yeah.
that is standard year over year. The transfer out from zoning to, or from general fund to zoning
Yeah.
is to support their operations. They are supplemented by their own revenue, permits, permits and associated fees, but that doesn't cover their full operation. So every year, general fund, has to transfer money into 2021.
Okay, good.
Do
Sorry about that.
did we
else?
have zoning on the? Yeah, it just says miscellaneous funds.
Yeah.
All right, well,
But since we were there for the transfers out is why it
Yeah,
brought
okay.
to our attention.
do we want to go into TIF or do we want to do community development?
Well, let's do community development then, if you want. And we also didn't have self-insurance on here. Is that part of the
Self-insurance is
miscellaneous?
under miscellaneous funds.
All righty.
Yeah. Kind of our catch-all. Again,
I'm sorry,
nothing,
what tab are you in?
this should be the community development fund.
We don't have one. Is it under other?
Oh,
Yep,
shoot.
it says that.
You don't have a zoning tab?
I have
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
zoning
zoning,
tab.
yeah, zoning. Sorry, we have a department named community development, we have a fund named zoning. So,
Thank you.
there we go.
All right, now we're on the page.
So the zoning fund supports the community development division of the administration. Okay, as I talked about within general fund, the general fund picked up a lot of the personnel costs. So Joy's position was moved from the zoning fund to general fund. And we also deleted the part-time inspector position that hasn't been filled in quite some time. I'm not even sure if it's ever been filled. I think it was a hypothetical position. So somebody with a longer history with the department would have to tell me if that's ever been used. So
I don't think we
I
ever
certainly
hired
don't
anybody.
see a
Oh, wait,
need.
Didn't we have Nathan in that job?
Yes, we
Okay.
have.
All right.
We have. He was part-time
He was
inspector.
part-time inspector.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
All right. Well,
He was full-time, but we had an intern before that. David was full-time, and then we had an intern for like
Tom was the last part-time.
What was it,
Okay.
Tong? Well, that name doesn't even ring a bell with me.
how many years does that go back?
A long time.
Okay. All right, long story short, this is a legacy position that has been in the budget for quite some
gone.
time. We've evaluated, we've spun it. I don't see any reason to keep this in the budget. There's no plans to fill this position in 2025, so it's out. So with that being said, we've moved one position out, we've deleted another, and that is how you have the decrease of over $100,000 in salary and the, as well as the decrease in supplemental
Yep.
personnel costs. The only other thing I would say here, our vehicles are, they're on the road every day. We are seeing increased repair costs, so we are trying to bump up repairs and maintenance for that. Let me see. I gotta try and find it on this little screen.
323, is that the one? 323 would be on the one before?
323, yep, one more.
Explorer? Ford Explorer and the new CD car.
Yep.
That's it.
So in prior years, it was actually even less than that. So, yep. All right, that's all I have.
Okay.
We had a truck in that department.
What's that?
I thought we had a truck in that department.
Well, we had a truck, and that was totaled out. That was
And we're not replacing the truck.
Well, we replaced it
With the
last
Ford
year with the
Explorer?
Bronco. So
Okay.
Bronco's still under warranty. It has, aside from oil changes, I'm not anticipating
Yeah, knock on wood.
any major maintenance. Yeah. One thing I didn't talk about in general fund is our Admin Explorer. Our Admin Explorer is currently at Ford for its 4th engine replacement. So that is being taken care of as a warranty issue. There's no direct cost associated with that, but we are down a vehicle. We do anticipate getting a loaner like we did last year. We may have to talk again about a possible replacement. What I would recommend at this time is if we are going to consider a replacement, I don't think we're putting enough miles on it to need a brand new replacement vehicle. I would rather find a good used vehicle and, make those dollars stretch. So I think we can get a more reliable Explorer or more reliable used SUV that we can replace it for minimal cost, not a $30,000 increase. So.
What all do you use that for?
So it gets moved around. So it's a shared vehicle for either myself, Lori going to the store for supplies, Chris going to the other facilities, within town to, work at other buildings. And then it's also our travel vehicle for any training. When we go up to OTA, we're utilizing it. So I would say it maybe gets 5,000 miles a year, if that, at least under my current plan to utilize it. That particular Explorer set for quite a bit. It's not a high use vehicle, but when you need it, and it does make a lot of short trips.
Okay.
The problem is we can't get an engine to last in it because there's got to be something. There's got to be something impacting the engines, and I'm not a mechanic to tell you what that is, but,
Would we consider buying one of our old, or keeping one of our old police cruisers? If we have that much little use of it,
Sure.
because we keep the back seat, right?
Jeff and I have discussed that. It's certainly a possibility if we had a good one coming offline, but he's not typically in the position of trying to, he's not trying to get rid of his best vehicles, every year. If we had a good one come offline, it's something I would certainly consider. It would certainly need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of costs associated with tearing out that equipment. So, we would have to have a conversation. It's a value conversation of whether do we put a few $1,000s into, an old police vehicle to make it admin worthy.
Want a white Suburban?
What's that?
2003 Suburban.
Now we're talking. Yeah. I know. Ron's got an old Sonoma. He's trying to. Yeah, he loans us. We call it the Sadnoma.
And this would all be,
This is a future conversation. I'm not
it
proposing
is a future
anything to-
conversation, but they're putting in another motor, and hopefully we'll get that back. Why are they not giving us a user vehicle now, since this is on them? The thing hasn't run.
It's in the works. Ford policy is that they have to have it for a certain period of time before they issue that loaner. And I think right now, it was how the timing started on it, right? So they actually have to put it in their system and order, the engine has to be ordered. Once the engine's ordered, then there's a work order on it. So it's Ford bureaucracy that we're dealing with. We're getting a loaner, and we'll certainly have a loaner within.
All right, well, that's good. And all the other talk on the other vehicles is crazy, because if it's a good vehicle, Jeff would keep it in the cycle
Yeah.
of his good vehicles, which I'm just focusing back on a past comment that I saw about, oh, if it's so good, just keep. It's like, trust me, we keep the best vehicles we can keep.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, keep the safety of our employees first and foremost, and the safety of our residents. So that being said, so the fourth engine on that, to me, Ford should be looking up saying, we will give you a replacer now. This is your fourth motor. We've got some power behind us that we could say, guys, this is a public nightmare for you guys, for Ford, that we have to do 4 engines. And we're still sitting here waiting on it.
Yep.
You're putting other people's safety at risk when you do that.
We're having this conversation
Okay.
with Ford.
All right.
So we're not,
They say we don't qualify for the lemon law, 4 engines.
so it's being evaluated. The issue is it's a 2018, so it's under the mileage, but it might be aged out.
Over the
So
age.
there's some leeway there, but
bite.
yeah, we are looking into that. It's not a dead issue.
Yeah, it shouldn't
The
be.
Explorer might be dead, but the issue's
The
not.
issue isn't.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Persevere there.
that's right. All right, what we all came for, TIF.
Oh, I figure that's why these guys have stuck around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come for the food, stay for
There you
TIF.
go. Get your magnifying glasses out.
Yeah, I'm going to blow this up, but we're projecting TIF out to 2040. So we are constantly, this is a living, breathing document. We're constantly updating revenue projections, especially once we have our settlements from the county. And, as we work with other departments who are making requests to TIF, we're incorporating their requests into the year-over-year columns. All right. There we go. All right.
Is there a
With the new,
fold-out sheet?
so
It's in this packet, big packet that they gave you.
people might have different opinions of this, but, with the new valuations, we've seen a pretty significant increase in revenue coming into TIF. So I want to say in 2022, we were only estimating $5.6 million in revenue coming into TIF. We saw a slight increase in
Can you hold 1 minute?
2023.
I don't have one. Thank you. Never mind. I've got it.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah,
I think I have another one here if you guys need it.
Mike, did you find yours?
Good, I'm good, yeah.
Everybody's good? Okay. What TIF revenue, or what revenue we would see in 2024 was actually the biggest question at the end of last year. No one could give us an answer or an accurate estimate of what that would look like until that first payment came in 24. So we were only estimating 5.9 million in revenue, and I'm happy to report, at least for the health of our TIF fund, we received over $6.5 million in direct payments to TIF. So we also have additional revenue coming in from this year. Some of that is the sale of a fire engine. So when a vehicle or a major piece of equipment is bought with TIF dollars, when it's sold, that revenue is collected back into the TIF fund. We also have the police vehicles that were sold, so that would be coming into TIF. And then we received from Hamilton County a reimbursement of $600,000 from our DTS project. So we have over $900,000 coming back into TIF revenue from just this year. So
that's for saying in 2025 or in 2024,
So
that's
it's-
what we
it-
started, is what you're explaining.
So it's revenue in the budget 2024.
Very good. Okay.
So that's helping us with our end-of-year balance. and
Just want to
carry.
make sure. Yeah.
Yep, that's fund carryover.
Yep.
Right now, we're anticipating just the sale of the vehicles from police department from next year. So the only additional revenue that we'll see, or at least we're anticipating right now, is the sale of those vehicles. So
TIF is used in a lot of different ways. A lot of this it's bond supported, so you can see that we do have a number of debt line items here that have a payment schedule coming out of TIF. This year was the last year for the OPWC funds. That's Alomar, Hibernia, and Rents Place. We also had the Greenwell Firehouse loan.
Gone.
Congratulations, Doug. You can paint the door red, burn the mortgage. Yep. So we do have some debt coming off, but we have picked up some additional debt because of DTS. So, and again, this is structured out over the next 40 years. With the increase in annual revenue, we have additional expense because we pay out a portion of that to the schools to make them whole. So you can see that there's going to be an increase there. We had some payments in 2024 that were an adjustment. You can see that there was a late payment with Cincinnati Public Schools and Oak Hills. So some of these numbers had to be adjusted. This is the normalized expected values based on the new revenue. So tax administration fees, and then we get into the fun stuff while we're all here, capital projects. Of course, as Chief...
Before you go forward, I have another question. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
On the payback to Oak Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Why did that go up if, in fact, they're supposed to be not charging us the TIF money for the project here at DTS? How does that balance out?
So we have a TIF on this site that was essentially just established and recorded, so that we're going through that process right now. Those numbers do not reflect any revenue, any TIF revenue coming in from this site.
Yet.
So this is just based, it went up because of the property values going up.
Yeah, this is without.
It's the property values going up that it's reflecting.
Property values going up.
Yeah.
Right,
So
because, I mean, people ask about how
Sure.
they're paying for it, and this is how, and like, if you're showing an,
Yep.
yeah.
What you're seeing, why did Oak Hill School have, additional revenue coming in? It's essentially because of the new valuation.
revaluation.
When people,
Appraisals.
I hate to say it, when people were screaming that their appraisals went up by 30%,
But there it is.
some of those properties were TIF'd, and there it is. So,
Well, they would have gone up whether they were TIF or not.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So TIF didn't
Yep.
have anything to do with it.
It just
It was a
directed
total
a different way.
reappraisal.
I will say this,
Not
for the
TIF.
record, whether your property has a general tax distribution or you're in a TIF district, you are not paying a dime extra. There is no difference. When you're in the TIF district, the apportionment is different, not the total value.
Right.
So there is no impact tax-wise to your general property owner.
Redirected.
So the benefit is that we keep those funds locally instead of those being distributed across the county.
Right.
Okay? All right, so capital projects, as Jeff talked about in the police presentation, we have $188,000 earmarked for new police cruisers and associated equipment, as well as the $40,000 in flock. In the fire department, we have a planned schedule. This is part of payments for existing vehicles, correct?
The 248 is the payment for the Quint.
Yep.
10 was the ambulance I was discussing.
Right.
Obviously came into play for the apartment fire this morning, right?
Absolutely. So, again, these are payments that are spread out. This is part of a multi-year plan, and that we've already incorporated that into our master plan. Okay, let me.
243.8 for 2 years from now is the first payment of a new engine. The old one at Station Bank.
Yep.
So that's how that's
Yeah.
showing in there.
Okay.
And that's last year, the Quint, last year.
Yep, and that's already been approved for purchase.
Sure.
Yep, so we already have the resolutions on that. And of course, I lost my year. There we go. All right, as we talked about yesterday when we were looking at, the Public Works infrastructure schedule, They're being very generous and being light on TIF, both in 2024, 2025. The bill will come due next in 2026, where we have earmarked $500,000 for their infrastructure projects. Okay. And I tell you what, just because I don't have the years on here, where my mouse is the 2025 year, just for reference for everybody. All right, Parks and Recreation, again, you saw that they do have a lot of capital improvements planned, but they're doing that within the actual parks budget, and they're going light on TIF. So same idea. Okay. And then finally, we are into administration. Administration has been using TIF in the last few years, in part to be direct cost supplementing the Delhi Town Square project. When we received our bonds, we started backing off on this, so we did not use the full $1.966 million. So there is some reserve on that, and we will update that once we get closer to the end of the year, because we're still waiting on one more Turner payment. So we are looking to have a better end of year balance than what we're currently showing. But in this year, we are adding, so we're getting rid of the $1.9 million. We are going to earmark $35,000 for HVAC replacement at 934 Neeb. If we are going to be utilizing that as office space and a lease, we're going to have to upgrade those. We have a dying unit that we can't get parts for anymore.
We're not really getting rid of the 1.9. What we're doing is redefining the 1.9 into the bond payments. Is that not true?
Well, so we talked about the debt up front, and we have structured that out. What we're not doing.
Same thing?
Yeah.
Different.
Okay.
It's a little different. What we're not doing, when you look at Delhi Town Square Turner, okay, and you see the 1.8 and then 1.9, those are direct payments. We're cutting a check and it's coming out. Yeah.
Those are construction costs.
Yeah, those were construction costs. So you don't use TIF for operations. There's nothing directly hitting Delhi Town Square. We will be paying on the construction debt, and that, again, that's structured out through 2040. Okay. And then finally, we have, starting this year, we have the DTS debt subsidy. This is not a direct loan. What we're doing is we're making a plan every year to pay on the principal of those debts, and then we can pick which one. So essentially, just trying to get those paid down so that we don't have as much interest on those over the long haul.
There's several pieces to that debt refinance. It's the rental income from PLK. It's the TIF reimbursement. It's the income from hopefully
HFIT.
Town Square, HFIT, and also the lease on the space that we still need to build out.
Okay.
So there's like 4 or 5 components that are being used to help pay this debt from this location for DTS.
Mr. Miller, you talked about the $35,000 for the HVAC repair for admin 934. The windows over there are pretty bad too. Have we thought about that? Would that help complement the HVAC? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the window problem was.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly take a look at that. I know that there's been some green funding that we've talked about trying to utilize. If we did have a grant opportunity, we would just need to amend appropriations so that we could get reimbursed.
Okay.
But we'll certainly. So I guess we have 2 options here. We can put some money in the TIF fund now, if that's the direction of the board, or we can investigate grant opportunities and then amend later. So, Or if we want to do the improvements with or without. I personally, I'd rather wait right now.
I don't want to talk about this.
We'll investigate our opportunities and we'll get an assessment of the
Yeah,
window.
we're going to look at all options there, and obviously that's not for today's budget meeting, but.
No, I mean, it's a question and something we can talk about when we do the budget meeting, when we, adopt it or whatever, but it's something worth looking into because the windows are horrific. And again, if you're getting a new HVAC, are we going to overwork it if we have drafts or whatever the situation? That's why I'm saying I'm not sure what the situation is. If it's just broken seals, what is the situation with the windows over there?
Sure. Okay.
I mean, if we're going to be marketing this and leasing it, just a question.
I will say, the group that we're talking to, they've toured the building multiple times, and they're thrilled with the condition of it.
Okay.
Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
Okay.
When do we get an answer from them?
They're in the works,
Yep.
working on contract.
Okay. All right. Miscellaneous.
All right, I'm just going to kind of do these in fund order. All right. A lot of these are going to be pretty quick and simple. So this is underground storage tank. We have insurance costs associated with these every year, $550. And we also hold a line item open for deductible reserve if anything happens.
Okay.
I don't even actually have the sheets here showing expenditures because the 550 is something we pay and the 11,000 is what we hold on to. It's just in case. Okay. All right, 2401 lighting districts.
It's under other.
Oh, wait a
I mean,
minute.
it's under other back here.
Yeah, but what he just put up there was not.
Was not that. Okay.
What's that?
We're just trying to locate it in the book.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay, so what are you doing now, lighting districts?
So we were just at, so it's the second page of the other. All right.
Okay.
So we just did that. All right, moving on, lighting assessment fund. Okay, so these are our lighting districts, okay? Tax collection fees, all right, so this is where you have a special assessment on your property tax bill. There's an established lighting district in your neighborhood, and you and all your neighbors are paying a portion of the electric for those neighborhood lights. So this is both our tax collection fees that we're essentially a pass-through for, as well as the cost to run those lights. So these are payments to Duke Energy. We are trying to anticipate. You can see we had a larger increase in tax collection fees. I think that's because we've had a couple more districts added. Is that correct, Jim?
I can't recall. I think we bumped up the annual amount for a couple of locations.
Okay.
I think Joy dug into that pretty good
Yep.
last year and adjusted accordingly. So I think
Yep.
that's what we're talking about.
All right, so this is a true up. So we did bump these we did bump up the contracted services because that's essentially the Duke bill for these. And we just want to make sure we've got enough in there to cover any increases in electric costs.
Okay, there's one up there that's undefined for $100. Again, it's minutia, I understand. It just doesn't have a title for it. Is that part of Oakwood Park? I was going to try to do them.
Yeah, I believe so.
Just another thing up.
Yeah.
So that's probably the DRE tax. That's what it is, the DRE tax and D tax.
Yep, I
for
think you're right.
Oakwood. Okay, thank you. Got it.
All right, recycling incentives. Again, this is just part of our recycling program. I believe this is actually used for the recycling day. So that's it.
Simple.
Okay.
We spend this every year.
Yeah, on the page behind it, you have 10,000 for 2025.
So we did bump that up because we have seen we have seen an increase in cost with Rumpke for dumpsters year over year. So we're just trying to accommodate.
So the front summary should say 10,000, not 9.
Oh, bump up the front sheet. Okay, yep, we will reconcile that. So we do want that to say 10,000.
Thank you.
You're going to see in our budget this year is a lot of our bond funds dropping off because we are zeroing out those funds and they're no longer going to be used. The one that you see is oh, I'm sorry, this is
Town
Town
Square
Square.
tax
sorry,
exempt.
this is bond, this is principal and interest payments.
That's
I
principal
wish
and interest,
those were
that's not
zero.
fund.
Did we miss one? Hang on.
All I see is the tax exempt, I don't see the tax.
So is this,
Okay, that's fine.
so is this bond or is it,
These are, so these,
this is the
these are
bond
bond
payment, okay.
payments. These are structured. Jim and I aren't changing these numbers. These are part of, how many year schedule?
30 years.
Yeah, 30-year schedule. So we will update these sheets.
Okay,
We just need to add the taxable. There's 2 of them.
okay,
These amounts are correct.
Okay.
thank you.
Yep.
All right,
And actually here, I'm going to put it up on the page. So you don't have it printed out, but we do have it accounted for already.
okay.
So this is the taxable. So now, keep in mind, there's actually 4 bonds on DTS. So you've got your 2021 series that is split up into tax exempt and taxable. And it's based on what on the site we were using that money for. And then we have a matching pair of bonds that we did in 2023, that we just renewed. So we have, again, a taxable, let me back up, a tax exempt, which was the 2.6, and what we have left that actually has an expense line is the taxable, which was originally 5.4 million.
Okay, and the taxable's not in my book.
That's what he said, he has it to us.
Yeah,
Putting it
so
on.
I'll bring it. So the taxable payments and principals, those are here.
Okay.
That's up here.
Okay,
Okay. All right. So we used to have 4 expenses, basically 4 capital lines here. We had the capital expense coming out of the 2021 series, and then we had the 2 coming out of essentially the 23 series. Now, we're down to 1 available bond fund that money is still coming out of. We started out earlier this year with 5.4 million, all right? As of September, we had 1.9 million left in that fund. And right now, I think we're at 1.7, but I'm waiting on one more payment from Turner. So I'm currently estimating that there will be a carryover in that fund that'll be spent next year of approximately $1 million. This number will adjust. So we'll have to do a true up on it, but that $1 million is just it is a cloudy crystal ball estimate. It's a placeholder.
okay, so we don't have that page either, so you're going to give that to us too?
Yes, yeah.
Great.
Yeah, your sheets will all be updated.
Thank you.
Big chunk of that, or like around 700,000, is what we're anticipating for the build-out.
Yes.
with space down here.
So, the bulk of that money will be used
Is for that.
as TI or tenant improvements when we sign a lease
On
for
the
that
still
space.
rentable
Yes.
Yeah,
area.
so, this isn't $1 million that we're just gonna keep spending on DTS. It has a purpose and it's gonna stay in that fund until utilized.
Okay,
So, there is some closeout with both Turner and Graybach for the bar. We're looking at a maximum cost there of about $500,000, but we're not expecting that to be the full amount. We have a lot of credits coming back from the lawn. We do still have some retainage with Turner, and of course, we're still working with Delta as part of the Turner package, so I don't know if there's going to be credits or a reduction in retainage, but there's going to be a true up there. So that's where we're going from 1.7 currently to 1 million carryover.
Okay.
We'll do a true up.
Okay.
All right. And then finally, we have our self-insurance. So. All right, self-insurance has our wellness programming, and this is also where we're managing claims and providing for, health insurance costs associated with Surest, who is our insurance plan, as well as Marathon Health, which provides the corporate clinic services for our employees. Melanie, is there anything else you want to add to the discussion here?
No, just that the fixed costs are relatively remaining the same, it's just the claims costs that are higher variable.
Okay. Any more questions? Any questions at all on this?
No.
All
Does
right.
that do it?
I think we just went through it all, and well before the 6 o'clock that Ron was estimating. Did I miss? Yeah.
Rose asked about the shared services, and I did create a cover page.
Oh, that's right,
sure.
we did have that, yeah.
So, and that was the first sheet in the other, because I know you guys were looking for that.
Yep.
We do have, let's see. We do have a number of employees whose salaries are spread out amongst multiple departments. And so this is actually the
add some together.
compensation and plan that we're talking about. What we want to do, we wanted to, I guess, normalize across the prior years, because this 2025 has the 27 pay bump up. But you can kind of see the cost increases for those folks year to year. And again, this is 100%, but they're all split up amongst the departments.
Right, in the budget.
Yep.
Okay.
So, when we talk about contracted services, and every department is discussing their IT costs, we are looking at that holistically. I can tell you that we're actually tracking all of those together. Again, there are a lot of shared services on IT that is being split up amongst the departments. Most of this is based on workstation count or head count, depending on what the use is there. But we're always looking at possibly adjusting these percentages. And then, of course, there are some departments that are picking up 100% of a particular line item because it is wholly their system. RMS systems for fire department, they're the only department that uses it, so they're paying 100%. Whereas, website services, they're just picking up a percentage. You guys get the idea.
Yeah.
And then again, Chris, he's tracking hardware across all departments and providing this to the department heads so that they can break out their piece of it. So, yep. All right.
Well, on behalf of the board, and, I'll let them speak for themselves, thank you to all the department heads and administrator and Jim, too, for all the work you put into these budgets. These aren't looked at lightly. They're not thrown together nilly-willy. A lot of information goes into this. Like I said, this is probably the most important job that we do all year long, to be good stewards of the money of the township. Thank you. We look forward to adopting this at a future trustee meeting. And I know there's some changes that need to be made between now and then that we've asked for, or some numbers that have to be changed just because of record keeping. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know sometimes I'll come in with questions and it's like, gee, whatever, but you've always accommodated my questions, know how difficult or silly it may be. Trustee Davis?
No, I mean, thank you, and I know I say it every year, but I think back to the early budget days when I first came on as trustee many years ago, and where we've come in so many years is wonderful. But I can't help but also think as we're going through this, there's 11 of us in here, and so many others that go through the budgets and work through it, and it is all pretty transparent. There's no behind the scenes, there's no nothing. And if there's any questions, or if we just ran through something and you're watching from home and you're not sure, you could call any one of us, especially our administrator, any of the trustees. All of our phone numbers are out there. They're all over. Call us. If you have questions, get facts, get understanding. As Trustee Sturt said, we'll be unpacking this and digging deep into it, and then having the whole session when we go through for approval and everything. And feel free, you can ask any questions you want. Schedule a time. If you're not sure how a township budget works and how this all comes together, schedule a time with our administrator or even any of our department heads who can sit there and go through it. So, having information is gold, and having accurate information is it doesn't get any better, and that's what you need. So, thank you. Thank you for putting the time in, and it's like you said, I mean, this is so much of what we do, to try and make sure that we are transparent, that we are using the taxpayers' money as it should be. And I love hearing the questions as we were going into it of how can we save even more? That's how it should be. Instead of thinking, well, we got all this money, how can we spend it? No, how can we save it? Because just because things are starting to look better, you never know. So knowing that you've got things covered and looking at the big picture is wonderful. So thank you, department heads. Thank you, administrator. And we'll continue as the trustees. We'll continue to unpack it and look at it. And like we said, any residents, you have any questions, now's the time. Reach out.
Thank you. Trustee Seavey?
Well, of course, first and foremost is thank you for all the work that's been put into this report. But behind that is your entire year's worth of work watching this budget, because I'm listening to each one of you. It's a continuous project. It's an exercise that never stops, is watching this budget. And to me, being entrusted with our taxpayers' dollars is my number one responsibility to the residents of Delhi Township. And it certainly makes our job as a Board of Trustees and fiscal officer a lot easier when we have department heads who accept that same sense of responsibility. And I'm very proud to say that all of you do, and I thank you.
Jim?
Thank you for, taking ownership of your budgets, and, obviously the time and the effort that you guys put into this makes our job a heck of a lot easier. And, you guys know your budgets, just as well as my clients, know their business. So I do appreciate, your knowledge, your experience, and again, the time and effort that you guys and your teams. I mean, it's not only the department heads that are involved. I mean, you guys probably have other, 2, 3, 4 other people in your staff that probably help with that as well. So thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you. All righty. Well, brings us to the end of our meeting. If we could get a motion, please, to adjourn.
With no further business to be brought before this special meeting, I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for tuning in.
Well, I would give them back to Lori and let her update them. I mean,